Having a regular selectmen's meeting, September 13th, all selectmen present. We've been videotaped by 58.
Area 50.
Area
It's nice
58.
to be back in our home.
And the first thing on the agenda is if you would please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have any minutes to locate?
We do not. I'm still getting through. Oh yeah, we have executive sessions, but we don't have the regular minutes because I haven't.
No, that's okay.
They're over 30 pages, and it's just. Yeah. So I'm almost done with them, but I just want to make sure. But anyway, so I'm prepared to move the Selectmen minutes of the executive session for July 9th and the executive session for August 9th, 2016.
Is that July 9th or 12th?
July 9th. It's July 12th and August 9th.
Oh my gosh.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to affirm approval of the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 20 for $344,778.86. Vendor warrant number 21 for $31,614.66. Withholding warrant number 22 for $127,997.67. Ambulance commitment number 8B for $86,648.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I move to approve the following warrants and commitments. School warrant number 23 for $289,975.36. Vendor warrant number 24 for $48,198.49. Mobile home park fee number 9 for $5,160.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I borrow these bills?
Yep. I'm sorry, I didn't
Oh,
realize I
sorry, I
had
didn't
them.
put them on there.
No,
I'm
that's
so
okay.
sorry.
Can I put them on here?
Oh, of course you can.
I move to approve the following bills dated Tuesday, September 13th, 2016. We have a commitment for mobile home license fee for $5,160. We have a bill for National Grid for the monthly electrical bill for $1,739.29. We have another National Grid for this concession stand for $71.74. Michael Gilman Esquire for $1,932 for the month of August. We have one for Beth Israel Deacon for an invoice for a physical for $400. We have out of the law account Deutsch Williams Brooks for $1,820 and attorney Lawrence Mayo for $2,991.50.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
That's all I have.
Yep.
Okay, Charlie? Got a few minutes.
Yep. Let's see. The big bulk of the mail here in terms of volume is simply plans. The country club has sent in a new revised plan for its multifamily development off of Plymouth Street. It still doesn't appear to contain a plan that includes a 10 acres minimum that's required for multifamily. The board did send a note to the planning board previously about that. The board may want to send another note now with this revised plan that still doesn't have the acreage needed. I mean, I know that they should be able to do that given their properties, but there's no plan in here actually showing the actual 10 acres that would be used for that site.
Would you like a motion, Charlie,
Yes,
for that
please.
letter to be sent? I move that.
Second. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So, I'm sorry, Charlie, can we just back up for a second? I believe the zoning board is hearing that petition on October 17th.
Mhm. Right. But this was, I
Yeah, for the
believe-
planning, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Mhm.
let's see, back in '06, there was a plan filed for Dunkin' Donuts
Yes.
located, if you're facing the Stop and Shop property, the west access road. There's a property to the, just west where
Yeah,
a house used to be and has been
to the
taken
left of
down.
Tedeschi's.
Yes.
Yes.
Someone has refiled this plan. It was previously approved in '06. They've refiled it for that location, the only difference being that there was going to be some retail and office space behind the Dunkin' Donuts proper. I think it was going to be still one building, but probably an entrance to that section from the back. Sort of like, we have a couple other properties that have backside businesses. So they've refiled with the planning board for a new site plan. That's going to be heard, I guess, in October also, where they're asking for comments by September 30th. This includes a drive-through that had received the necessary special permit from the planning board. It's one of the few things that they handle the special permits on as opposed to the ZBA. So there's a copy of the '06 plan here. It's not the revised plan, but the only revision is eliminating the second story for the office space.
Could we backtrack just a little bit, because it says here, according to Terry Renaud, the only change is the elimination of a second story in the back retail office space.
Right. Yes.
So they're still gonna have retail space, it's gonna be on the same level?
Right.
Okay.
Um,
I just wanna be sure.
I think this is happening because I heard a rumor that the Tedeschi's is becoming a 7-Eleven.
It's already a
It's not a room,
7-Eleven.
They already own it.
Oh, okay.
7-Eleven own it already.
And so they must be saying, thank you very much to Dunkin'
But
Donuts.
we don't wanna pay the rent anymore. Dunkin' Donuts just saying to them, we don't wanna pay the rent because.
Well, that Dunkin' franchise changed hands too, so there's a
Okay,
lot,
all right,
there's a lot of stuff going on.
Moving parts.
Stuff going up in Braintree we don't know about?
Maybe.
Okay.
So if the board has any interest, the plan's here in the mail file. Okay, slightly out of the ordinary. Second and Third Avenue, south side of West Monpont Pond. I had the Murphys come in who own property at Second, Third Avenue. They own 4 lots between Third Avenue and Second Avenue. They said, they came in and were wondering why there were docks in front of their property. Now, the docks have been there a number of years, probably decades is my guess.
Did they just move into the property?
I don't think so, no. They just finally decided to come in and ask about it. Again, I can check, but I think they've owned the property for a little while. Because they had the property surveyed, and what they found were some of the docks were on their side. Also, they found some of the docks were attached to the stub end of Second Avenue. We've talked about stub ends and everything before in other locations. And so they were wondering if the town could do anything about this situation.
Private property.
Well, we'll take it in pieces. For the docks that are on their property or attached to their property, they simply said that's a civil matter between you and whoever put those docks in. Maybe they got permission from the previous owners, I don't know, but outside of the fact that there are no permits that were obtained for the docks, and I checked that with the Concom, there's no specific action for the town to take. If the board wanted to notify the Concom and ask them to take a look and see whether the proper permits were filed for wetlands building the docks there, and if not, to follow up on that, they could. But the town has no interest other than that. For Second Avenue, we don't own Second Avenue. We never accepted Second Avenue. So as with a lot of stub-end streets along on both ponds, probably any number of people have various interests that were granted to them to use the stub-end to access Monpont Pond. That might include the O'Keefes, who live at 4 Second Avenue, who allegedly put the docks in at some point. However, that stub end has basically been turned into a driveway by the folks who live at 7 Fayette Street, which is a cross street at Second Avenue. There's basically a 1 lot between the pond.
Okay, Charlie, we should
And the
have
plot
like a board
thickens.
Yeah.
game.
So-
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
So, with all that, it goes back to the only action really the town has an interest in would be again to notify the Conservation Commission that the docks are there and they can check to see whether permits were obtained properly, and then if not, follow up on that.
But what about the person who made the driveway in a stub?
Well, again, do we have then we might not have any particular interest. Other
Oh, because
part,
we don't own the street.
right.
That's
Other
right.
other parties who might want to access
Right.
Second Avenue get to Mont Ponce Pond might have an interest, but again, that's a private matter between them.
Okay, but if we own the street, it would not
Yes,
be a private
correct.
matter. Okay, well, well, it's not a good or bad thing, but can we just call it good right now?
We don't have
Well,
something
it's-
else to
it's
worry
just-
about.
It's the situation is what it is. It's
Yeah.
not
So-
good or bad.
Nothing we can do about it.
So in terms of, the Murphys, I can write to them and say, as far as the docks are concerned, on your property, that's a civil matter, other than the wetlands issue, you need to contact the Keiths and either work something out or
Yeah.
deal with that with them. As far as wetlands, both Second Avenue and on their own property, if the board wants to, I can notify the Concom formally and ask them to take a look at it and investigate if there's any action that needs to be taken concerning those docks, if they do so.
My suggestion is that we do that, to take some action, and whatever action we can, and notifying them is the only thing we do. I think we need to do that. But what action can, because I think you need to tell the individuals if the docks aren't meeting standards or have got the permits, what action can the conservation take?
Well, they could start finding the person who has the docks there.
Okay, then I think you ought to mention that. Anything else you want to put in there?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, so I'm just going to send a note to the Concom about that. Okay, I'll do that.
All in favor?
Aye,
Since you,
yeah. I'm not paying attention, I am.
As far as the zoning board of appeals, we have an associate member that the zoning board of appeals is interested in appointing, Dan Basari. And I can set up an appointment with the selectmen for him to come in the following Tuesday, the 27th at 8:30 if the board's interested.
always looking for volunteers.
And we've seen a lot of Mr. Basari here at meetings for the Clausen thing. I know that he also attended the hearing, the dog hearing last week. So I think,
He's expressed interest in it.
yeah.
At least we know he commits himself to certain issues if he likes.
No, I understand, but I would want him to not
He can't
participate
participate.
in those, yeah. Yeah.
So if the board is interested, I can set up an appointment for him at 8:30, because we already are dealing with the dog hearing, and then also we have the residents from West Mont Ponce Pond, the north side of it, coming in at 7:45, and I don't think it's going to be a 5 or 10 minute discussion about the derelict properties.
6 minutes?
I think 6, it's going to take a little longer.
Okay.
So if the board's okay, I'll do 8:30. Recycling abatement, this is not the ones that Pam has given you. These are this one, and there would be one a little bit in the future of the meeting. But for this one, this is for 2010 and 2011, Bill 816. The situation is that the property changed hands back in December of 2010. The certificate of municipal lien was issued. It did not include those bills. Therefore, and the board has taken the position that if for some reason the treasurer collector's office had failed to include the bills,
If failure on our part
yes,
to seek the funds, then there should be something
right,
else.
to abate the bills in those
Yeah.
cases. So I'm recommending that the board abate both the 2010 and 2011 bills for this property. I think they're different bill numbers. Let's see if I can see if for 2010, it's Bill 816. For 2011, it's Bill 825.
To the bodyguard? I was saying, I saw a ladies come in, I thought maybe you were the bodyguard.
So if the board's interested in making a motion, does someone want to make a motion?
I would like to make that motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, School Building Authority, we got notification today, a little bit weird in the email, because what they simply said was, we've chosen an architect and chosen a our owner's
OPM.
project manager, but didn't actually say, we've accepted your application, but the meaning is clear. So Joy Blackwood and I talked a little bit today. The first step is to get the OPM contract signed. We just want to check in with them and figure out who's supposed to be doing what. And there's no conflict between Joy and myself. We don't care who's doing what. It's more, we want to make sure that the state's saying this is the person who signs this, or this, do we need the committee to sign it, which we don't have yet? We need to get that done in the next few weeks, but we'll make that happen. Then after that is done, the OPM works with us to work out a contract or an agreed upon amount with the architect.
Right, and I had that conversation with Charlie on the phone today because I was CC'd on that email, and I was very confused of who takes the lead role in that. And so,
We'll work it out. It's not a problem. It's just we need to know from the state.
Both of you sign it, and then we'll be sure everybody's in tune.
We do have one cemetery deed to sign, so I'm going to pass that down to the board for their signatures. Just so the board is aware, the old Blackledge property has been approved for a solar farm away by the planning board for site plan approval. There's a few stipulations there, but nothing significant. There's no action for the board, but I just wanted the board to be aware that we'll have another solar field there likely.
Just lighten up the town.
Also, no actions needed on this, but Tom Coulter is holding an open community forum regarding Mont Ponce Pond and Brockton water issues on September 24th at 10 a.m. at the boat ramp. The rain place is going to be here in the Great Hall. There's no specific invite or anything, just I wanted the board to be aware that that was happening. As far as the fragrance policy is concerned, I know there had been a concern about bathrooms and the lack of being able to have a deodorizer there. I checked with the people who have been affected by fragrances, and they indicated that they've had no reactions to the citrus deodorizer that's been used in the town hall bathrooms, and I've told Jerry that, and I believe those are going to be put back in, or already have been put back in.
they haven't.
Okay, well, I talked to Jerry yesterday about it, so. I'm sure
Yeah, I
it's
told the parties that they could bring in their own citrus flavor until that.
Okay. We did get, and you're seeing Mr. Delaney in a few minutes. He's indicated interest in serving on the Board of Library Trustees. I think the trustees will be here also. And, but he also indicated interest in serving the Board of Registers or Capital Plan Committee at some point. So I've notified those boards. And we're trying to end for 75 Hayward Street. The building inspectors notified the owner that the previous building permit that had been issued in 2014 has been revoked due to inaccurate information presented in the application. In addition, the owner is in violation of the town zoning bylaws because they are operating a multifamily without the necessary permits. Mr. Picarelli has given him 30 days to cease and desist all work in connection with the permit and the use of the building as multifamily. The Board of Health has notified the owner of several violations of the health code for living spaces. Some of the tenants may have issues with each other, and the police department's monitoring the situation.
Yes.
Okay.
Want one
Yeah,
more?
one more minute,
Okay.
one more.
Chris Hadorn
Hadwin.
had sent a note into the board about putting signage up by the soccer fields at Summit Street. What he'd like to do is get no parking signs for the quadrant of the parking lot, or the section of the parking lot that is on, if you're facing the soccer fields, is on the left and closest to the gate.
Yes.
Okay. What he wants to do is make sure there's an emergency access available at all times. So if an ambulance needs to get out on the field or anything like that, they'll have access. So he'd like to put up no parking signs in that area. I checked with Dick Steele, he has no problems with this. He provided a diagram showing how big the sign would be and where would be, the section they're trying to.
On the right-hand side or the
No,
left?
the left. If you're
The
facing
left-hand
the
side, if you're facing the
Right where the
soccer field,
opening
where the
is.
opening is.
So-
But there's two openings.
Well, here, on
Yeah.
this
But it's
side
the-
here,
It's the one that most everybody.
so on the
uses.
left, this is the left-hand
Okay.
side.
And sometimes those cars get in the way from people actually exiting.
So,
It's a small parking.
I'd recommend getting the signage up. If we need emergency access, we definitely need
Yeah,
it there.
I'll make that motion that we approve the signage.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
And I believe
Aye.
it's 7:20, so the board could deal with that appointment.
Mr. Delaney, come forward and be knighted.
United, that's awesome.
We'll see.
You should run quickly.
No, stay right there, don't move.
Sharp blades don't work well around me.
Okay.
You're interested in the library trustee?
Yes.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we did have a loss there. Sorry for your loss. It's good people. And why? Is your library card up to date?
Yes, it is, although, library, I like libraries. I go to the library, I use it, I use the electronic library, but it's gotta be something that is active in the community, and I just want to be part of that.
What issues or anything that you might think that the library might have to be helpful with?
Library, I've got no specific agenda in being on the board of trustees, other than being helpful in getting the library moving forward into the current information age, and keeping it going, keeping it relevant for the community.
I love libraries. I mean, I hate the computer. But anyway.
I love computers too, although sometimes
They're useful.
They are hateful.
They are hateful. Yeah.
So are cell phones, but.
Tom?
Well, for me, I like the fact that you said you don't have a particular agenda, which I actually find is refreshing. I think that's the mindset to go onto a board with. Have ideas, but not necessarily an agenda, so that you can open yourself up, find out what the problems are, and look at them without any prejudice. So I'm just happy we have volunteers, so I mean,
I think it's wonderful, but I know that you're a volunteer already because I've taught CCD with you at Our Lady of the Lake, so I know that you really do care about the community. So this may be your first board or committee for the town, but you definitely have volunteered your time for our community.
Well, he's also been performing guard duty on the library. He passes it every day on his jog. So.
Well, I see you jogging. I know.
Yeah, it's not every day.
So he's been keeping watch on things over there for us.
You go a long way, though. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how it's-
No, but we're excited to have people want to, commit to these positions. We recognize that people are busy in their lives, and sometimes it's really hard to volunteer their time for a board or committee, but I really do appreciate that. And I've seen you at town meeting,
Oh, yes.
which is so important. I think that if anybody serves on a town board or committee, I think it's important to actually attend town meeting to be able to participate, because that's really sort of our finale of all the works that we do for the
It's
whole
all part of
year.
participation in town.
Yeah.
We always give back to where we were.
Yeah, and I love that about you. Yep, thank you.
Some people do it more than they have to.
I would like to make a motion that we appoint Mr. Delaney to the library trustee for a term to expire May 13th, 2017.
I'm very happy to second that.
Oh, we have,
Technically, you're electing him to fill the position to
Until
okay, so I
Ryan.
will
It's a joint
elect.
election.
Oh,
It's a
it's
joint
a
election.
Oh, okay.
Each member of the library trustees who's here has a vote. Each of
They're
you
all
has a-
politicians. You
Okay.
gotta watch
Well,
them.
can I make the motion on behalf of all of us, though? Is that okay? So I'll make that motion. Thank you.
Do we have a third? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And all, Pam needs to just have it on the record which members from the trustees were here to ensure.
Okay, so Madeline Flood. Okay. Caroline Harrington. Maureen Claire. David Emerson.
Can I ask, so is this term until May, the next election?
Yes.
Yes,
So even though,
yes, yes.
That's why he's gotta keep his library card up to date. There you go.
I can't divulge that information.
That's right. It's a LIPA
So,
instead of a HIPAA. It's a
so now,
library.
hey, we can't have a secret society in the library. Come on.
Your library business.
That's right. It's a LIPA instead of a
What
HIPAA.
happens in the library stays in the library.
Especially in the reading room. Okay, thank you very much for volunteering. I appreciate it, ladies. We appreciate the work that you've done, and hopefully we'll continue. And once again, sorry that you were a shorter member, because it was well liked. And so these changes. So, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We can really clear a room.
Yeah, apparently.
Hold on.
Ted?
Must be me. Or the Harry Judy.
That's me.
Ignoring at me already.
No, I'm just not,
I didn't call her, but obviously we have some bad news. Mr. Bucieri, you guys just spoke with a couple of weeks ago, passed away unexpectedly last night. We don't have any details at this point. I did speak with his mother this morning, and we're going to try to work some arrangements and see what happens. And as soon as I know something, I'll reach out to the board and let you know over it.
I'm very sorry for your loss. He looked like he would have had a good future for with us.
We had big expectations for him. I mean, it seemed like a really nice kid, and wanted to move him along as we were, and sometimes life gets in the way. It was a shock to all of us. So.
Well, as soon as you hear something, I'm sure you'll get in touch with us, let us know what we can do for our services and stuff.
And we reached out, we're told that the family, as much involvement or as little as they want us to do. I'd like to go over and do something as the department, but we'll see how it plays out.
I would also like, if the board willing to, is to send a letter to his family, a condolence card, something like that.
That would be nice.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, he was an incredibly young man, and it's just, just a shock to all of us. And we do wish that, their family are in our prayers, and we can't imagine the shock and pain of losing him. And we did. I had such a special bond with him. He was such a nice kid, and it's definitely a loss for our community. In the short time that he was here, he participated in the Hops dunk tank. Like, he was at the elections, he took the details for the dances, so he was definitely somebody that we could see being part of.
He was committed.
Yeah, we were
So-
looking forward to bringing him on.
We'll keep his family in our prayers and him in our prayers. And thank you so much.
With the board's approval, if the board wanted to lower the flag for several days,
I think that's appropriate.
would that be appropriate, or should we wait?
Let's maybe the day of the service,
Okay.
and when that comes about, I'll let you know.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe just a station, or we'll do
Yeah.
something like that. All right, great, thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Sorry for your loss.
Sorry to go to more mundane subjects. Just in terms of Fieldstone Farms, back at the end of August, the Board of Health has sent a note to Mr. Clausen about his failure to provide testing results before the August 17th show. He provided the results, I think, within a day or two after the note on the 31st, but I think that the Board of Health and the Selectmen will just continue to monitor this. I don't think there are any more shows this year. I have to check his show dates, but I know that's,
I thought his last one was going to be in October.
I'll check. Be something to monitor.
I haven't got our agreement in front of me. That's with Board of Health, that we didn't have anything.
Correct. I mean, that was simply part of the stipulations that they approved themselves for whatever well permits and such he needed. They reminded him that he needs to comply with those stipulations. On the Nazarelle property on Summit Street, this is the Chapter 61A land, which there's an intent to convert the land to a solar field. We've heard nothing from any boards or committees that are interested in having the town purchase the land.
So we need to waive our right
I
to
would
first.
recommend that, yes.
I would move that we waive our rights of the first refusal for to purchase the property on Mr. Nazarella's property.
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Traffic Safety Committee met on September 2nd.
Yes, we did.
And they reviewed 3 issues. One was the Well Church Plaza. This was that the bushes were getting, vegetation were getting overgrown there and not providing enough of a sight line for motorists entering or leaving the property. The owners trimmed those bushes back. As far as the Pine Street LED stop signs, the committee's recommending that the town have those installed, but not as blinking stop signs, just a steady LED light around the stop sign. If the board approves, then Chief Riveros is going to be contacting Mr. Lindrich because he said he was willing to fund the signs. I didn't know whether the board also wanted to do any sort of public comment period or just approve it and notify the Highway Department and Traffic Safety Committee that the matter's been approved.
Have we heard anything at all as far as the public?
No, but I don't think there's been much discussion either.
Right.
I think
we could, I can send out a press release and such,
Yeah.
and we're talking about it tonight, but just to
anything that
review,
improves the security and safety of the individuals and the drivers, I think.
the proposal is that we have stop signs right now at the intersection of Pine Street and Plymouth Street, not on Plymouth Street, but both
Intersection.
signs coming in from Pine Street. We already have stop signs there. Mr. Henrich had asked that this town place LED lights around the stop signs so there'd be more notice to drivers. I guess there've been a series of accidents at that intersection of people just plowing through into the intersection without stopping. Wanted an opportunity to provide more of a warning to the motorists that they needed to stop. The Traffic Safety Committee has recommended that, or if anybody has any comments about whether in fact the LED signs, and these are lights around the stop signs, should be installed or not, by all means, please contact the Selectmen's office by the next meeting on September 27th. The board's going to appreciate the public's input on this. We'll send out a press release and such on that. Let's see, we did that. Oh, the third one was the traffic island for the east end of Plymouth Street. We had a resident who had come in several weeks ago requesting this. I didn't get a name or anything, so I can't contact that resident, but I brought it to the Traffic Safety Committee. What the resident was concerned about was that traffic that was entering Old Plymouth Street from Plymouth Street was cutting across the divider line between the traffic coming east on Old Plymouth Street and the traffic going west, so that there's the potential for accidents. What he had suggested was getting a traffic island installed so that traffic would have to make the full curve rather than cutting across the arc of the curve. What the Traffic Safety Committee had said was that that intersection was reconfigured at some point in the recent past. There had been a traffic island there, was removed for sufficient reason. They don't see a reason, in fact, to reinstall it. So if the resident comes back one way or the other, contacts me in some form, I'll give them the information. He can always meet with the Traffic Safety Committee to further plead his case, or if you wanted to meet with the selectmen, I'd make an appointment for him to come in, but that's where it would stand.
And just for the record, that was a unanimous decision by the committee.
How long ago was that traffic taken out?
Oh,
At Senator Allen.
well, it's been a while. 10 years, 12? Yeah.
Have we had any inordinate amount of accidents or
No,
in that corner?
both ends of Old Plymouth Street were reconfigured. At one point, Old Plymouth
Mhm.
was a split when they did the original.
Right.
And it's been re-engineered a couple of times, and as far as I would think the state's concerned, that it gets better every time they re-engineer it, so I hate to think I know more about that than the engineers do, so, you know, it's one of those things you have to pay attention to. It's,
I mean, I think he could do either or, as far as I'm concerned, meet with us, but I think it's better off meeting with the committee, the traffic study committee,
Yeah.
and have them explain to him why, because they could explain it better than we can, since we're not experts in that area.
We'll see if I get any response, and we'll go from there. Kathy Drang just CC'd the board about a contact she made through the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school. This is due with substance abuse training, and that what she was proposing was a life skills program that had been recommended by Governor Baker to help with substance abuse education. There's no action needed by the board, but the board has an interest in this subject, and wanted the board to be aware that Kathy had reached out to the schools about this.
Yes.
That's something that was around about 30 years ago, and because of federal funding, it sort of went by the wayside, the drug education in schools and things of that nature. We even had a lot of halfway houses that were formed.
Yeah.
I think it's great.
This is the program that Ted, that came out of the opioid task force that I had showed you, and Ted and I had met with Kathy a few months ago, and we had looked at a couple of different programs, but she was gonna hire a,
Trainer, or something.
no, an intern
Okay.
to sort of vet all of the different programs, and she ended up choosing the one that we had thought would initially be the best choice.
The school committee and the district is very much aware of the issues and all those things that are being brought forward, so it's It's something we're all been looking at, and, you know, it's just something the school committee and the district needs to decide on. We're more than aware of the problems and doing what we can.
On abandoned properties, the board's meeting with a group of residents from the west Wampans upon the north side of it next week. Sorry, 2 weeks from now. Also, Maria Burke had contacted me about a house on 48 Cedar Lane that appears abandoned. I think it might be in bank foreclosure. She'd like to have something all done about that, and she's decided she'll come to this meeting because the options probably for that property are similar to the options for the other properties in the north end of West Monpont. So, I did want to say that I've reached out to OCPC and the MAPC for best practices on how to deal with these properties. I checked all the bylaws for all the communities in Plymouth County. No one has sort of a property standard type bylaw. There are no trash, no unregistered vehicles, things like that, which we already have in our books. But there's no property standard bylaw on the books anyway that I found. That's also why I reached out to OCPC and MAPC to see if they might have examples. There are places like Brockton and a couple other cities in the Boston area that have abandoned property bylaws or ordinances. These were probably put in back when we had far more foreclosures happening back in 09, 10, 11. I'm going to take another look at those because they may be applicable in some of these cases where, not so much where we have people living in the housing and it's simply gone downhill, but where banks are foreclosed but not taking any other action to do anything with the property.
And then I would imagine that the Board of Health, if they are occupied and they seem to be in that condition,
Right.
would somehow have some sort of intervention.
They might. It depends on the exact problems.
Does it make sense to have maybe Kathy Drynan?
Well, I've already invited both Kathy and
Okay,
Rob
thank
here
you.
for that meeting.
And Rob Petrella?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
The board does have a town bank form from Candace Niffen. She's interested in joining the beautification committee. I know they're short-handed. I know that we sent it out to them, but it might make more sense to invite her and the members in specifically rather than waiting for a recommendation from them to have everybody come in on the 27th.
Well, ironically,
Can we just vote her on tonight?
yeah, I think this is why I think it may not be a bad idea, because I don't think that other members of the beautification would have a problem with it.
Yeah.
So Candace Niffen was recommended by Tom Fitzgerald because, they served on the board and they talk gardens a lot, to be a participant during the whole discussion about the Peg Memorial Garden.
Right.
I think what happened is Tom's been a little overwhelmed and, he saw the plan and then we thought it would be bigger. We were trying to make it smaller, and so I think we ran out of time before the planting season what the beautification committee felt like. I'm not an expert in that kind of thing. So,
Unless you want to put bulbs or tubers in at this time of year.
I don't normally attend all the beautification committee members' meetings, but because it was for the Peg Garden, I, wanted to be able to be a part of it. And so I think that it would be appropriate, honestly. Candy Niffen served as a selectman for this town for many years. I think she was on the finance committee. I don't think we need to bring her in, and I think if she's showing an interest, I think we should just appoint her. So,
I'm on board
and
for that.
especially know that because I know the other two members of the board would be happy to welcome her.
Oh, yeah.
So
I served with her.
One less appointment to make.
Yeah, so I would like to make
You've served with everybody.
a motion. I don't know what her expiration date, not her expiration. Her
1 year.
1 year. So I would make, I'll make an expiration.
Was that a June 30th 1 year or specifically?
June 30th,
Okay,
yeah.
great.
So I make a motion that we appoint Candace Niffen to the beautification committee with the commission expiring on June 30th, 2018.
17.
17? Oh, really?
Yeah, because 1 year, that's how it goes.
I know, but, okay, that's fine. We'll do 17.
It's not
I'll second that quickly before she changes her mind.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the board also received a town bank form from Kathleen Ballerini. She's interested in serving on wage and personnel. I believe she's meeting with wage and personnel tomorrow night at their meeting.
Oh,
Yes.
so they rescheduled it? For-
Yeah, for tomorrow night.
And my hope is that if everything goes well, then wage and personnel will recommend her, and I'll set up an appointment for her to come in on the 27th.
Right.
Okay, we have a 7:45.
Yeah, but you know,
We got
6
5
minutes.
minutes, yeah.
East Mont Ponce boat ramp, I do have an application into the Concom to try and fix that valley and berm problem, but in the meantime, I did get a note from another resident who wanted a firmer base going into the pond, he was suggesting using crusher dust of some sort.
Well, I don't know how that does
No,
for the
no,
pond,
the
but we've
crusher
got
does.
we've got the lake master right here. Do we have to check with the lake master about the improvements to the ramp?
The harbor master.
No, he's a lake master.
We have no harbor.
He's a lake master. Right, Chief? You are a lake master.
All me needs again,
I just love that term, so whenever I can use it, I use it.
We've had all those,
That's always
Yeah.
an issue with power when goes on soft ramps like that, it always washes the gravel out. It's a maintenance issue. If highways,
I have to check with them, if they're willing to do it, then that's great, if not, I'll have to get some money.
But I honestly feel that you don't want to put any dust or gravel in there. If you're gonna put any, the cobblestones or something heavier.
conservation may have some input into
Yeah.
what
I'm gonna see them on
what
Tuesday.
product to use.
You have to have some of those granite pieces that you lay down in there. They'll be out there for it.
So, that's typically how we'll handle it, is we get the okay for the right material, and highways has done for us in the past, but it's an ongoing education thing with boulders, not the power of the boulders and the water shutouts.
Especially when to get them
So
up on the.
I will talk to them about the surface also. Autumn Lane, that got paved in late August. Some additional work needs to be done with the tree belts and drainage and such, but it's a significant improvement over what's been there for the last 10 or so years
15 years or so.
since the development went in place. So I'm continuing to monitor that. I'm hoping we'll get the rest of the work done this fall. Maybe if we can get everything done, be able to bring this to town meeting in May for acceptance. Streetlight, Indian Path Road. Donna Chapman had asked for streetlight number 3 to be turned on there. It doesn't meet the town's normal criteria for streetlights. We have 3 which are cul-de-sacs, intersections, or dangerous curves. Indian Path, for the most part, is pretty much a straight shot. She's worried about her personal safety there. There are a couple of choices. One is that with the board's approval, go to the Finance Committee for money, but we've tended not to do that. Our tendency has been to go to town meeting for specific streetlight requests, appropriate the money. What I can say to her is that the board be willing to put an article in for next May, but in the meantime, if she wants to pay for the streetlights, she has that opportunity. There are other people in town who pay for streetlights. And then once we get to May, if town meeting approves it, we would take it over in July of 17. If town meeting says no, then at that point she'll have a decision to make whether to have it turned back off or continue to pay for it.
Yeah, I spoke to him about that, because they caught me as I was coming down the street. And it seems that that little area is fairly dark. If I'm walking, she does jogging and all that, for her own safety. So that's one of the reasons that she turned on. I explained to her exactly what you, at least to her father, what you're talking about, so. What's the board?
I would suggest that we do exactly what we normally do, which is if she wants to put an article on the annual town meeting, we're happy to do it for her. In the interim, she can pay for the light. And I think if we go away from that policy, then it opens us up all over again.
Yeah, I totally agree. We put it on the warrant and let the town decide. Otherwise, I mean, everybody's got an argument to have a light on in front of their house.
If the board's approval, I'll do that then.
All in favor?
Aye.
We got notified that the town's received a $5,550 Sustainability Materials Recovery Program grant. I need to check with Susan Johnson, who I'm very thankful was able to get that money for the town, but there's no detail here with the actual
Uses?
award about what she's planning on doing with it. So I will contact her and get back in touch with the board as to what the plans are for that money. We have a series of fall legislative breakfast meetings with the MMA coming up. The 2 ones that are closest to Halifax, one will be October 7th in Bridgewater, and then one on October 14th in Fairhaven. They do ask people to RSVP. It's free, but they need to buy the right number of pastries and coffee or whatever else. So the information's here for the board.
7:45. Okay, 7:45 or 46 thereabouts, and we have Mr. Bergstrom to discuss mud, dirt.
Hi guys. You guys received my packet?
Yes.
got enough information to go forth with it?
I think for myself, I'd be waiting for, and I think you should, if you haven't already, requested a determination from the zoning enforcement officer.
This determination from the zone enforcement? How do I go about doing that?
You could ask him.
Hi, Bob.
No, not,
He's Rob.
not,
So what,
Hold on.
So what you would want to do is put in a written request detailing the event, where you're going to be locating and all that
Yeah.
information. Send it to Rob, and because you'll be showing, in fact, where you're intending to do the Mud Fest. Is the land zone agricultural? Is it zone conservancy? Is there frontage? How are you getting in and out? Things like that. Then Rob would make a decision. Either it's not allowed where you want to have it, it's allowed by right, or it's allowed by special permit. And that would be his decision to make. If you didn't like that decision, you could appeal that decision to the zoning board of appeals.
Okay,
So the packet that
yeah. Let's start from the beginning, because I think that, I don't think the audience understands what's really going on, Charlie. And so I think it's important to sort of explain why we're questioning whether or not Mudfest can be held. And so I know that Bob has been in to talk to Rob and has submitted some paperwork to the board, which I brought to Rob as soon as you brought it in. I thought you were going to give it to him to direct.
my printer died 11 o'clock that night. I got here first in the morning. I explained it
Yeah.
to her. I'm like, I didn't, because I usually print up copies.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, I found out that he didn't have a copy. As soon as I got my copy, I brought it to him. But maybe, Charlie, would you like to be able
Well,
to
okay.
explain it?
Mudfest has happened for several years now. Both, I guess some have been in the spring, some have been in the fall. We've had, what the board's done previously is approve them on an individual basis under the entertainment bylaw that we have for live entertainment and such. However, we were dealing with a different situation on a different property and zoning issues regarding live entertainment events. And we reviewed the zoning bylaw at that time, and it's clear that various entertainment events are not allowed in certain districts where they're outdoor entertainment events. They might be allowed in this district, or they might not be allowed in another one. They might be allowed in this one, but only as of right. We had a discussion concerning Mudfest with Mr. Bergstrom back in the spring, because the previous event was in June, I believe, on Father's Day. And what we did was include as part of that discussion was the fact that there was a zoning issue with that. It isn't the board's decision to make as to whether something's zoned properly or not. If someone had, and the board was not interested at that time in essence sending a note to Rob to say, well, we think there's a zoning issue, you need to make a determination. And no one else did either, which was perfectly fine. But it was, part of that discussion was, we need to get this figured out for future events. So that was part of the discussion in the spring. So now what we have is an event that Mr. Bergstrom has asked for, I believe it's the 11th of November? 13th of November. Second Sunday in November in that case. And we're still up with a zoning issue. So that the board issues, if it wants to, a live entertainment permit, but that's not a zoning permit. The zoning issue, the decision of whether the property can be used in such a fashion, goes through the zoning enforcement officer, and still needs to in this case. As far as the situation at Fieldstone Farms regarding the horse shows, and I think there's a difference of opinion.
use of land.
Well, no, it's a difference of opinion about whether that, if we're starting anew with the horse shows, as opposed to back in the 80s or 90s, whether that would have to go through the zoning process and such. I think there's debate about that, but nevertheless, what supersede all that conversation is the fact that we have a consent agreement between the town and Mr. Clausen, which the board and Mr. Clausen agreed to revise just very recently, but needs to go back. But it has to be approved by the court. It was approved by the court back then. In the 90s, it's going to have to be approved by the court again. And that basically covers any zoning issues regarding the horse shows at this point. But for other events, we don't have anything similar, whether it's the Mudfest or any other type of event on that property, on the Fieldstone Farm property, or anything else. So the matter still needs to go before the zoning enforcement officer for review and a decision whether this type of event is allowed on this property, depending on whether it's on agricultural residential land, conservancy, things like that.
Okay,
And I think we need to make clear, though, that we've had mud fests and they've gone through without incident. There's been no problems, and Mr. Burson has been cooperative doing those things. It's just this little glitch, and I don't think I can't say it was a small or large, but I think it's something that can be taken care of.
I don't know though, Troy.
Yeah. Well, it depends on what Mr. Bergson's plans are. He has to present them to
Right.
Rob. I mean,
But now, Charlie, it is now September, I don't even know what day it is, 13th.
Yeah.
And in 2 months, he wants to be able to have mud fests. And so I thought tonight was going to be the discussion about,
The right to farm act and the zoning things that.
so there's a couple things that
In different case files.
I'm not
That's
this.
what you need to
right,
get a zoning determination.
Right, see, I'm not the zoning
Yeah,
guru
right.
of this board. So what I understand is that there's 2 different issues that we're faced with.
Yeah.
One of them is the fact of the use, as Charlie had explained, that it's agricultural
Right.
zone, and so this may not fall, where a corn maze may fall within agricultural, this using
Yes.
mud may not.
There's a fine line there. I
Right.
talked to Brad Mitchell, and he explained to me, though it's not written and physically see mud logging of concerts, it's there, it's an incidental, it's there.
Who's Fred Mitchell?
Brad Mitchell is the federal, farm, so he's the Federal Mass Farm Bureau Federation, like he's the head of it.
Yeah, this is the
And I
first
reached out to
page.
him.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah.
first page.
But
And I reached out to him, and he specifically said, yeah, they're more popular now and they're gaining popularity, and the laws haven't caught up to it yet, but they allow along with corn mazes. And enclosed in there is a letter from him that, the suggestion is, yeah, that's allowed, and he knows that. And then he pointed me out to a case file that the people were going for an ice cream stand, not directly farming related, but, the Attorney General and everything will say, no, they can do that because it's farmland. It's an amendment, it's.
well, the thing is that the farmland issues divide into 2. There's situations where it's 5 acres or more, and there's 5 acres or less. The thing is, the use of the land still has to be connected to the farm. It's not a matter of a situation where simply because it's agricultural land and more than 5 acres, you can do anything you want.
Oh, absolutely.
Well,
No.
but- and so-
He also explained to me, anybody can get farm plates, but do they consider themselves a farmer if they don't grow anything?
So our point here is whether the use is in fact as incidental as we're talking about, and whether it's connected to the farm or not. And again, this is why this board doesn't make the decision. Right.
No, but okay, why isn't it a special permit through the zoning board of appeal? Why does it go to the zoning?
Because Rob needs to make a determination whether it goes to them.
Oh, okay, because I have this one.
And right now, just a moment. Right now, let me ask, I have a question to ask right now, is why are we discussing it now if he hasn't talked to Rob yet?
Well,
hasn't
we have talked, and he requested, like, if you can find something, case file or laws or reach out and everything, in which I believe I did. I got numerous other files, but they're not Massachusetts files and stuff like that, that shows.
Have you talked to him since you presented the stuff?
No, it was a big rush, Monday, bang.
Well, see, my point, I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but my point is that I'm discussing this because we can't make a decision on it right now. That decision has to be made through Bob first before we can even get it to us. As was stated earlier, we can give you entertainment if we decide to do that, entertainment permit. But we can't, at this point, till we get the zoning issue straightened out. So I don't know why we're discussing it now. And I don't mean to be rude.
Because he was very vocal the last one to, I thought, he'd be vocal and speak up this evening, but I didn't know there was a process of,
Well, so Rob had issued an email, a memo to the Board of Selectmen prior to Bob coming in with the stuff on Monday, and it's in our packets. So Rob had determined that
Based on the information he has, which is not in fact a set of plans or anything, but based on basically the informal information he has. Until Mr. Bergstrom gives him a specific plan, he can make a specific determination.
plan where the pits are gonna be held, audience gonna be held, access, exit, entrance.
Where on the property?
Mapping of the property.
Again, it's, without getting them in and spending a lot of money, it's a difficult thing to wrap your head around. I mean, based on, this is all hypothetical, but based on the fact that I'm assuming, I haven't been down to the site, I haven't seen it, everything's done in the AR district. Based on what I've seen, and again hypothetically, because I haven't received any definitive information, by our bylaws, and I'm basing it on our bylaws only, it would not be allowed in the AR district because it would fall under the schedule of use table as outdoor commercial recreation, which is specifically not allowed under the table of use.
And that's your local law, but the state law stresses.
But is it specifically written in for Mudfest? Because I don't,
Well, that's the problem.
I don't believe it is. That's part of
It's
the
not
problem.
there, but everybody's aware of it. We have local events going on and right down the street here, right over here in the Mud Bog, and one is held on agricultural and one is held on residential.
But does the
But
local
they conform to
bylaw?
the state
Does it-
law, not to the
Which state
town
law?
law.
Are you
It's
talking
state
about the
law.
Farm Act?
Farm Act.
I'm not trying to be argumentative, but,
No,
you know,
but
I've dealt with the Farm Act for a
the
lot of years,
48
and everybody
Section
interprets
3,
it
it's
exactly
there.
the way they want to interpret it. And I'm not saying yes or no here.
No, I understand completely. I was explaining to it, some people saw that dress as gold and somebody saw it as blue. It depends who reads it.
Well, yeah,
what
but
information
it's
they
not
get out of it.
specifically in there. There is language in the Farm Act. For instance, commercial riding establishments are allowed under the Farm Act. That's
But
incorporated.
they're also limited to a number of people.
Right, exactly.
So there are limits on,
If I read you clearly, we can have a daycare at the farm and really zoning can't.
No, because daycare is a separate use. Chapter 40A, Section 3 of the general laws allows a number of different exemptions. For instance, schools in general are exempt, but schools have nothing to do with agriculture. Section 3 is not just about agriculture.
Yeah,
It's
and
about
it goes onto the building and use of the land.
Right, but the point
What you
I'm
can do on
making is that
agriculture.
daycare, the fact that the words daycare are in there have nothing to do with the fact that farming is in there. Those are two separate exempt uses. The two, simply because you have daycare doesn't mean you have to have a farm. Simply because you have a farm doesn't mean you have to have daycare.
There's two meanings.
Yeah.
No, it's not,
It goes along with the
no,
whole-
it's not
the whole
two
thing.
meanings.
It's like, it's.
Okay, so, you know, we didn't want to come upon this issue, you know, we were, but it came out in the spring that we might not have been issuing the right to do that. And I've talked to you saying, we don't want to stop Mudfest.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, if you can bring us something that could allow us to be able to prove it,
Yeah.
we're happy to do it.
Well, I'll talk to Rob and see if that's, sufficient enough in the mapping of the land and,
But I want to understand the process, and I know that Mr. Nazarella had raised his hand, but again, I'm not an expert on our zoning procedures, but I assume that somebody wants a special permit, they go first to the zoning
No.
board.
What happens is for any use, what you want to do is go see the zoning enforcement officer and find out, I want to be able to do this type of business, this type of activity on this zoned land. What do I need to do? Can I do it just as a by right? Do I need to get a special permit? Am I allowed to do it at all? What
Okay.
variances might I need? Things like that. Start off with Rob, because if you go to the ZBA and you file the application, then they say, well, sorry, you're in the wrong place. You've
Okay.
gone through all that rigmarole for no avail. What you want to do is start with Rob, and he'll point you in the right direction. This is why, in fact, if you disagree with his decision, then you can appeal it to the ZBA.
Okay, so we're kind of running out of time.
It's not so much running out of time, it's time that we're not gonna make a decision tonight. The discussion we're having right now, to me, means I'm gonna have information to make a decision. I'm not ready to do that until such time to talk to Rob. In all fairness to Mr. Gresham, because I don't want anything said tonight made for
yes,
any
well,
change.
that's why we're here.
You know,
But the only thing I would warn you to is, like, other towns have different bylaws. Our bylaws are specific, and so typically it goes to the Mass General Law if there isn't a typical bylaw in place. So we have a specific bylaw that's stating what Rob just said, then
Now, everybody's received the packet and
Yes.
referred to that Watson case and everything else.
Right,
In the very beginning of it, isn't the mentioning of that, doesn't that explain?
You've got to get a decision.
Rob,
Rob.
I
and
don't know if this will help.
Mr. Nazarelli
I just wanna see if I
gonna
can shed a little light on, and some of the stuff that Bob's presented in his packet. And I just got the packet, I think a day or two ago, so I haven't had a lot of
Yeah,
time.
I just
to go
finished
through
it yesterday.
Basically, we're dealing with a couple of things. We've got the zoning ordinance, bylaws, and again, people think that agriculture falls into the exemption from zoning ordinances. Some of it does, but not all of it does.
Correct.
And there's a lot of confusion with the Massachusetts Farm Bureau, which is also tied into the American Farm Bureau. We've got governmental agencies, Mass General Law and our bylaws, and then we've got the Farm Bureau and the American Farm Bureau chiming in. The problem is, those bureaus are non-governmental organizations.
Correct.
Okay, they're nonprofit and they're volunteer organizations, so you cannot have a non-governmental entity telling you what you can do within your laws. I mean, they can suggest, but they can't
Exactly what
tell
they
you
did.
that this is the way it should be read or whatnot. They can advise you, but theirs is not law.
Yes.
That's the difference.
Well, I was just pointing out where I went to and what they told me in lieu of the situations in Massachusetts with other mudding events going on and other similar events with concerts and such going on in properties, exactly like agricultural residentials. And then the two that I listed shows two different cases in Massachusetts. One is held on agricultural, and the other one's physically in the person's backyard, so that's residential. So I need to know why
Can I
we
comment?
cannot do it here, when I understand Halifax has their own.
The case law that you're citing, that you gave me in the packet,
Correct.
is actually a newspaper article from 2008.
The what?
It's not case law.
It
It's a
refers to
newspaper
the case
article
law.
from 2008 that was written.
Excuse me,
It's not
Rob,
case law.
and as I've,
And again, I don't
yeah,
want
I
to
just,
get into
no,
it now.
but as I say,
I'm just trying to shed a little light.
I think this needs to be set down between the two of you or wherever else you want to
Yeah.
change this, because this discussion now, it's not gonna, you're not gonna make a decision
Correct.
tonight. It's not gonna gain anybody anything, and I'm not trying to say anything to hurt anybody's feelings. Mr. Nazarella, I cut you off, you all set?
It's just a confusion.
And again, it's
between
just,
the
I
other doing
haven't had a lot of time, so I just kind of want to shed a little light while we're here.
Yeah, and we want to give you every opportunity for you to look at it without being on TV or anyplace else to discuss this. And I mean this facility, discuss this and try to see if you can come up with whether it fits in and whether that fits in. That's all, and that board needs to know that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
So we have an 8 o'clock, I believe, appointment on the trailer. We have an 8 o'clock appointment on the trailer park.
Oh,
Mr. Tisano, come on up.
Hi,
I'm here.
how do you pronounce your name properly? please?
Casino.
Tassino?
Yes.
I just want to be sure because I don't want to say,
Especially where I mispronounced it, you get it right.
it's like a casino with a casino in the end of it.
Exactly. Good understanding. I have a 60-day permit to live in a trailer while I build my house, and I'm looking for an extension.
where are you located?
159 River Street.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And how much of the extension do you have? Looking for?
Was suggested 6 months. I'm hoping to be in by the end of November. My son's building next to me. He's hopefully be in early November, and I'm planning on just moving in with him.
Until yours is done.
Right.
But I had suggested that Murphy's Law keeps coming up in these
Right.
cases.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
that,
a lot of subcontractors.
It might be a desert outside now,
Because
but
I don't want to be, my wife will leave me if I'm in there in the winter, so I don't plan on it.
we wouldn't want that. Lawyers might like it, but we wouldn't like it.
So,
So you're suggesting a longer term?
no, I'm suggesting that, in fact, he had originally asked for a shorter
It's
term.
oh,
better,
6 months.
it's better.
I think 6 months
Yes.
is a good number.
And
You
hope
know,
it's 6 weeks.
I'm hoping, getting close.
Yeah, you never know, connectivity, all kinds of things can jump out at you at the last minute.
Do you really think 6 months? I mean, how far is the project at this point?
Well, I'm framed, roofed, windows will be in this week, but then I'm dealing with subcontractors that,
Yeah.
you know.
Kind of when their time
months
coming
is
up.
good. 6 months is a
Everyone
good
pretty
number.
lined up, but like you suggested, if I ask for 60 days,
You're back again.
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I think that's a reasonable.
how does the board feel on that?
I'll make a motion that we,
Just, you want to check to see if there's anybody here who's here to speak. It is a formal public hearing.
Yeah, you guys have
No,
anything to
looks-
say about that?
It looks pretty clear back there.
I have been certified by
Okay.
my.
And you have all the permits
give
and
them a
everything
PO,
else that you need for the building permits and
Water,
septic.
power.
You will need to go give those to
Yeah.
Pam.
so can I make a motion, I'll try. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like, no
Missing
worries.
one of these.
I'll make a motion that we approve
actually
the
got-
trailer permit for 6 months.
Extension.
So right now, the date, Pam, what's the current expiration date for the 60 days?
I didn't even count the days, I'm sorry. Get your calendar there.
Well,
Oh, I do.
I have it here, I have the
It
permit
expires October 1st.
Okay, so.
Yeah, so
six
April
months.
1st,
So, yeah,
2017.
Okay.
So in the spring,
April, I did
hopefully you'll
April
be
1st,
springing.
2017. That's April Fool's Day.
It is. Well, I'm hoping to be in like.
And saved from.
So you're moving it?
I did it. I did
You-
it.
You moved it?
I
you
moved
seconded
that
it? Okay.
trailer.
We don't want homes.
I moved that
All in
trailer.
favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Good luck.
Good luck.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
6 weeks.
Okay, we have, next one's at 8:20, so we'll walk through a few other things here. Chapter 90 funding survey, the MMA sends us out every couple of years. I wrote back to say we needed about $900,000 a year on roads every year. Right now, we get about $268 from the state and spend additional $225 ourselves. So that got done. The board got CC'd on a note to Rick Springer about his back tax situation. I guess there are a number of properties that he owes money on, and what the collector treasurer had notified him about was that permits would not be issued unless the back taxes were paid. Wage personnel
Yeah.
notified the board of 3 evaluations that need to be done, one for myself, one for Sandy, and one for Rob. In fact, I don't need mine done, I'm never
No,
gonna get
I
a
know
merit
you
increase.
hate it, but I have Sandy's done.
Okay.
I didn't do Rob's. I didn't know if Tom wanted to do Rob's. If you don't
I
want
think
to
he'd be a better
Rob's,
person doing it.
Yeah, you know,
because I used no, I
could be
used to do-
suspect, but
no,
sure.
I used
I'd
to-
love to do it.
No. I mean, I used to do yours when you're the building
Yes.
inspector, so I can,
I noticed I never got a merit increase, but that's okay. I'm teasing you, I'm teasing you.
so I can do Rob's.
Okay, good. Okay, we'll get it done.
Can I
As
consult?
it is, I
Did you just say get it done?
no, I have to get,
Yes,
no, what I was
now.
saying was I have to get Pam's done also.
Doesn't matter.
I've had Sandy's done for a while, but the thing about these evaluations is that when you've evaluated somebody for 6 years in a row,
It doesn't leave
What's
much.
new you gotta
Yeah,
say?
right.
right, you end up recycling, you want to make sure you didn't say the same thing, you know? So it's challenging to come up with, I want this
That the
to
person is good looking, they get good handwriting, and all this stuff.
No. I can just say that Rob's really good at quoting Mass General law, like this.
On a scale of 1 to 5.
You get a 5.
Okay, so you're gonna take care of that?
Yeah, I'll take care of it.
Okay.
You sure now?
Surplus equipment, we have a new printer in the selectman's office. I like the old HP LaserJet printer 4000N27X, which is at least 10 years old, declared surplus, contingent upon no other department wants it.
So moved.
So seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
And talk about surplus material that we're on
What,
there.
me?
Yeah, have we, well, I don't know about being surplus.
No, I haven't done anything because I've been busy.
He hasn't broken down yet.
No, he's talking about the vehicles.
Talking
Oh, I
about,
thought it was
talking about the
for you.
vehicles, I've had at least 8 people come approach me.
Well, those must be the same 8 that are approaching me.
And my song to them is that there's a priority, and we've been taking care of other things in town. So-
I don't want them when the snow flies, so I don't want to be out there when the snow flies, when it's done.
Well, you can't have people walking around and shoveling the snow at the same
Right.
time, so.
Recycling abatement, this was an old one from last year, Bill 137, which the board had tabled. This is a request for abatement for when the resident has a recycling business in Rhode Island and was
Yes.
transporting her materials there. The board tabled the matter in the spring. The board could not make a decision about this at that time, but also didn't provide me with a definitive request for additional information that will allow it to make a decision. The resident contacted the selectman's office again now because we sent out the recycling bills for this year and asked for the status, so I'm bringing it back to the board.
Okay, let me remember. So they were transferring recyclables over the border.
Yes.
Federal statutes.
Undocumented.
Undocumented, that's what it was. It was undocumented
In
recyclables.
this case, we had the recycling company, which this person owns, say, yes, it's acceptable for her, me, meaning the president, to bring recyclables to the recycling company.
I know, so this is the deal, and I know we wrote our policy so many years ago, but now that we have like a lot of private companies, like the private company that I use, you know, does do
Right.
What?
recycling, and so, I know.
And we get the letters from
And I
those
pay,
companies.
and I still pay my recycling.
Yeah, 'cause I can get a big form from you.
I don't want to.
Yeah, because but for the folks who do want the
Yeah,
abatements,
sure.
they do get the letters from the company saying, yes, Jane Doe is recycling.
Currently,
And we have a
it's
stack of them
currently
here, I already reviewed them,
recycling.
but, so my point is,
Yeah.
she has a letter, even though they're being transferred over the border, she has
Yes.
a letter.
So my recommendation to the board would be that.
We're gonna have to.
We approve it.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we,
I'll second it.
All in favor?
aye.
I'll notify the collector and the resident.
Build a wall.
Speaking of Chapter 90 monies and such, the highway surveyor has forms for the board to sign. This is for paving of Franklin Street, a $458,000 project. I believe, let's see, so Troy would, there's several copies. Troy would sign over on the right, and then the board entire would sign it over on the left. And there's two,
Why am I
Four
being
copies.
singled out? How come I
'Cause you're
can't-
special.
Right.
so sign under Sandy, please.
Special needs.
And then on the second page, you sign.
So I sign up
Sign down here,
down here?
yep.
Do
Under
we
Sandy.
authorize?
Should we make
Yes.
a motion that we authorize the chair to sign and then the rest
Yeah,
of
you
us
guys
sign?
will sign too.
I'll make that motion.
And then on the second
I'll second
page
it.
of each one, you
All
sign
those in
over on the
favor?
left, and the other
Aye.
two also.
Roy and Liz, so you have to sign. But then you guys will sign.
Because the secretary becomes the chair when the chair is busy.
Other
The guy in
grants,
the middle just gets hit.
This is-
so you sign,
Oh, here.
here, yeah.
Well, I made a motion.
Okay, you'll be using the chair for the BOS to sign.
No, I said the chair to sign, and as well as the
Okay.
whole board of selectmen, yeah.
One more page and I'll get.
So the town received a $105,000 grant from the Section 319 Non-Point Source Competitive Grant Program to assist the town in its efforts in the algae remediation over in West Mount Ponce Pond. This is a matching grant, which would certainly be helpful for us for our future efforts. At present, we're not planning on doing anything this fall because we don't have enough money to do anything this fall, given the recommendations from the various state agencies. If you remember, I think it was a month and a half ago, Solitude had informed the board that the cost to do the full-scale own treatment would be only order of $425,000. Right now, we have about 40 to 50 sitting in the account. This would bring us obviously up to 145, 150, 155. To do the full treatment next spring, we're going to need more money than this. And I suspect what we need to do is put some more pressure on some other entities to cough up some large chunks of change to make this happen.
It's interesting that you should mention Brockton, even though you didn't. I last spoke to the city councilman that was going to invite us to a council meeting, and he talked about it being in September. And when I spoke with him in August, I said, do you know which of the days, it's a Monday night? And now we are at the 13th, and we still have not heard that we have been invited. So I don't know, can we call?
Yes, absolutely.
And say, hey, we've never gotten our invitation.
Yes. I can do this as a start, but I think I also want to get notes back to the Brockton Water Department, the mayor's office, said, here's where things stand now. You want to know what the costs were going to be, here's what the numbers are like, here's what we're putting in, we need your help.
Perfect. I'm going to try to go to the Central Water Commissioners meeting in Plimpton tomorrow night. I'm going to be a little late because I have another meeting before then.
What else happened? Brockton did just recently, I think the last day or so, strengthen their restrictions on water usage. I think they're now down to 2 days a week or something on that order.
Don't even talk to me.
Right.
I mean, no, that's not directly towards you.
Yeah, at the end of the summer.
I mean, I just, you know what, I was at an MMA board member meeting today, and we all went around the table and talked about our water dams. And The only people who did not have water bans were the MWRA. So I think that Brockton, that's another reason why they should really consider that.
Well,
Because they don't like water bans in general, so that would be a
Well,
great
Brockton, if,
thing.
I don't know how, I mean, I don't know how, whether they have a fine schedule or not. It seems to be still more voluntary.
It is.
Yes. So they're not as strict as we are yet. Just, we did have a meeting for the Mont Ponce Working Group back at the beginning of the month. We had presentations from Solitude about the treatment, also from a business that does the water circulation, the soil water circulations. So, we still have some ideas that are on the table. I think there's some question about whether the water circulators would work as well in the shallow pond that we have versus some of the deeper ponds they seem to have done a better job with. But basically, when we talked to DEP at that meeting, they still are, I think, they're more in favor of using the aluminum treatment than anything else.
I personally also think that we ought to talk to the county about using their dredging machine to dredge out that channel that runs from the dam through on the bridge, because right now, at one point, it was what, 16 feet, 17 feet? The channel going through there? But it's probably down to 8 feet now, with all the mud and all the crap, yeah. Walk across it. Because I think along with having the circulation too, you gotta have a venue for it to get out, one way or another, whether we open the dam slough or underneath the bridge.
The dam has to be open.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
When it's open, it self-clears.
yeah, so, but I think that would also help if we've got the flow of water rather than a faster flow than the stagnant that we have right now.
What's interesting is I had asked the chief yesterday, I think, if he had looked at the pond, because he flies over it occasionally, and he said this year seems to be, last year it was definitely green and then blue.
This is
And then
brown
this year,
this
did you
year.
say it's very brown?
Yeah, it's brown.
Yeah, with the lighting conditions we had the last couple of times I was over it, it certainly looked like it had changed colors a little bit, and it was more on a brownish.
Yeah, I walked down there the other day.
The picture that I took last year, the year before, it was pretty obvious it was a really green blue sort of thing. Now
Yeah.
it's kind of a brownish blue.
On a kind of the same subject, only because, we keep trying to fix issues that we have control over. I know Kathy was gonna have that storm water grant meeting.
Sometime this week, I think.
Do you know, has she firmed up the time?
I have
or the
nothing from
date?
her.
Okay. The last I heard from her, they were trying to do it on Thursday morning, but I just hadn't heard, and I'll pop in tomorrow and see if she's firmed up the date and time for that.
Got a couple more minutes.
Couple minutes.
I did want, and I don't want to get into extended discussion, I'll probably talk to the board more about this on the 27th. But Mayflower Municipal Health Group, Rockland, which is one of the better performing communities, has given notice to Mayflower that it is leaving.
Dropping out.
Is dropping out, which will not help anybody's rates. As I reviewed with the board a few weeks ago, we really only have two options. One is to stay with Mayflower, the second is to go with possibly a new group that's being formed. I don't have any recommendations at this point. There are a number of meetings happening, I think, this week and next, and we'll see if something comes out of those meetings in terms of Mayflower, because the individual member units need to make decisions by December 31st, but we don't want to wait that long. And if Mayflower isn't making some progress that we can see towards better financial management, both in terms of rates but also in terms of reserves, I think we're going to have a difficult choice to make about whether to stay or to go with this new group that appears to be forming.
If they're willing to take us on.
Right now they are,
Okay.
mostly because I think, I'm sorry,
They just need members.
well, no, they don't need us.
They don't
need our money.
We're not-
Our
we're not-
experience is
we're
not
not
that
that good.
attractive.
We're not very attractive in that fashion at all, but I think what they're looking, sorry to beat my own horn on this, but they're looking at me,
They do like you.
yeah.
Can I tell you that? They really do. No, because there's another town that is probably gonna vote very soon. They talked about it publicly, Marshfield. And I was talking to Rocco Longo, who's the town manager there, and they love you. So that's a good thing.
It's just a mutual admiration society here.
And
Yeah,
just-
they really
that just
do.
sounds weird, but okay.
They really don't.
Yeah, I had to hear about it.
It's 8:20.
Yes.
And we have an appointment about a woofer.
Be the dog hearing.
It's dog hearing, yes.
Mhm. So can you come up to the front for us?
You didn't bring the dog, right?
I'm more into it.
Oh, playing the role of Nori. Boy, you grew really tall. Do you still wrestle alligators?
On off nights. Hi.
Hi there.
And you are?
My name is Joan. Last name is Anzalone, and I'm new to Halifax.
Well, welcome to Halifax.
Yeah, we
I
have
hope
to
this
say
is I hope this doesn't sour you on the town.
No, not at all. My daughter lives here.
You'll have to stand up and be sworn in, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no worries.
You too, Chief.
You're gonna make me stand.
Okay.
I'm gonna make you
I'm
stand.
really, okay. Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth during the proceedings with the selectmen?
Yes.
Okay, sworn in.
Okay. You want to give us an idea what happened?
Swearing in is.
Again, acting in the absence of our ACO, I've only got the report go by, but it appears as though someone was walking through this young lady's backyard with a canoe or a kayak, and her dog was in the backyard, tethered, and doing all the things it was supposed to be, and the gentleman misjudged how long the tether was, and the doggy ran up and nipped him in the leg.
Did he continue on and go kayaking?
He continued on,
Isn't
and
that
didn't
bad,
bother
man?
reporting it for several days to us, or someone that finally got it to us. The dog's up on its
Well, that
shots.
was the first question.
Yeah, the dog is all set as far as
He's
I'm
legal,
concerned,
then,
and, you know, it's.
So
the
basically they were
hazards of
trespassing?
walking in someone else's backyard, I guess.
No, that's the question. Is it in fact your property?
Well, I'm trying to, okay, so when this incident occurred, I was living there 2.5 weeks.
Uh-huh.
I was not present when my dog bit this person. I was hung up
Protecting your
at work.
property.
I was hung up at work, and since my dog has been diagnosed for years now with stress-induced colitis, no fun, and was on medicine for that because she couldn't handle that we just moved, you know? I mean, she was in a house in Marshfield her whole life, and now we're in a condo. She was 2.5 weeks, you know. Anyway, it took her a tough time to adjust. So anyway, I called my daughter, who also lives in Halifax. I said, I'm hung up at work, please go over and let Misty out and check to see if she had any accident because of the colitis. So she went over there with her son, and they were out, because you can't leave your dog tethered without being out there. So she sat at the little table and talked to the people that walked by and everything. And I have, the dog is a toy Australian Shepherd, 16 pounds. And she barks, like most little dogs. So, but she's never, ever bit anyone. This is the first, and I know there's always a first. So they never said anything to her, and she missed the whole thing. She said, yeah, Misty went and was barking at them. And I said, well, you should have pulled her right in, like, you know, from the lead, because she was on the lead. You should have pulled her right in, but she's like, well, I know she barks. She's been barking for 8 years. I would never expect her to bite someone. And then, so that was on a Friday, and then I got a call Monday that, about the dog bite. I was at work. I was shocked, you know? So, anyway, that is what happened. Now, as far as the backyard goes, I am still trying to get documentation on where my yard ends. I was told when I moved in that this was my yard. It's very small, like I have a patio, and then it, you know, like from here to that wall, and then there's bushes, you know, and I pay extra in my condo fees for an end unit, and I liked it because I had a little extra property, and plus the end would be good for my dogs that can be loud sometimes.
Is this Twin Lakes?
Twin Lakes, yeah.
So we're not entirely sure where the community property ends, and,
Yeah, well, I guess my question is
It's all
that-
common property there.
yeah,
Yeah.
some.
My question is though, did the individual live at Twin Lakes or even nearby, and why was he walking through Twin Lakes property?
He does live there. He's in the next building down.
Uh-huh.
So he wasn't trespassing.
I don't know. But anyway, so as soon as I heard that Monday, when I came home from work Monday night, I adjusted whether.
The lead.
Yeah, whether it's my property or not, I made those adjustments that night. So until, I find out,
One moment. Chief, what exactly is the complaint? Just the fact that he was bitten? Is he looking
That's
for
all.
anything?
Yeah, that's all.
Hearing what I'm hearing, I don't see anything except for the fact where maybe we should issue a letter to him, right? Stating that we do have a leash law and everything. The dog was in fact tethered, leashed, and on property. That was not a vicious dog. It's all up to date on all the shots
yeah.
and everything else that.
Well, I have a couple of questions if that's
Sure,
okay.
go ahead.
Has the dog exhibited any other behavior before this of wanting to bite somebody?
No, but the dog does, bark. Okay, so it's a toy Australian Shepherd, which is in the herding family.
Mm-hmm.
So even my own family members, my son, my daughter, and myself included, when I leave the house or come in, she barks. She's happiest when we're all watching TV and we're all, you get up to go get a cup of coffee and she's up following. She doesn't like scattering. She's a herding dog. So being that we were there 2.5 weeks and people were walking through our yard with a condo, with a kayak, I think, first of all, she's not used to anybody walking through our yard. She wasn't used to living in condo life. And I think maybe she was protecting my grandson or my daughter, I don't know.
Or hurting somebody? The dog could have just been naturally hurting the person that was walking by to say, no,
Right.
whatever. It could have been that.
Right.
But I would want to know that every time you go out with your dog, that it's not left in the yard at all,
Never.
alone.
My dog's never been left in the yard.
Right.
Ever.
Her
Ever.
daughter was.
Right, I know, but it still happened
Yeah.
even with the daughter in the home. And you keep mentioning the barking thing.
Yeah.
That could get you here at a different hearing. So you will have to sort of keep an eye on that.
Oh, I do. She's not allowed to bark more than 5 seconds.
Mhm.
Because I'm sitting there and as soon as she barks, I say, you're lost, you get right back in. It's never more than 5 seconds.
Have you had any communication from the condo association? Have they responded to that?
Only that Monday when I was at work, when they called me and told me. And like I said, I was shocked. I went the next day to the neighbor's house. I was like, so I can't even tell you how upset I was, to apologize. And the gentleman, I didn't actually see him. He had already left for work, but I spoke with his girlfriend. And so she told me, yeah, they went out kayaking. She didn't even know he was bit until later when he told her, after they were out on the lake. He said, I'm fine, I'm not reporting it. This is what the gentleman said, she's only lived here 2 weeks. And the girlfriend said, no, you have to report it. So they, I believe, not 100% sure, I believe, they contacted the condo association. And then in fact, the
Yeah.
condo association notified.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes
Okay.
sense.
That's what happened.
So I will make a motion that we send you a letter reminding you of the leash law, ensuring that the dog will not be left outdoors at all by itself. And that if there is another incident, that we will hold another hearing. I know that's exactly what you said.
I'm gonna second Troy's original
No,
motion.
but I hadn't got a chance to ask her a question about the barking.
I'm just messing with you.
But we're not here
post-traumatic
about the
bark
barking.
syndrome. I have post-traumatic bark syndrome.
Yeah, we don't wanna do any more barking. No more.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's
Just
it.
Thank
take,
you.
shorten the tether and, and
Yeah,
make sure
I changed
everything.
it already, so. All right, thank you all.
Thank you
Good
so
luck,
much.
and I'm sorry,
Chief.
this is the first time we have to
Bye,
meet
Chief.
you
Thank you.
under these circumstances.
Honestly, when I heard that Monday, I wanted to put it for sale. I was so embarrassed. But anyway, thank you all.
Good luck. Welcome to Halifax.
Thanks.
If you ever have time to join a board or committee, let us know.
I'm going to skip the Silver Lake land sale for a moment, because
Why?
Representative Coulter's here, and he might have a few things that you might want to say about that, but we'll get to that in a minute. On the other things that I left in the mail, there's the Small Bridge State Grant Program. They just made the announcement of the first funding round. The deadline's going to be October 31st. I notified Bob Bedore of that. That might work perfectly with the Pine Street Bridge. That's the one where you had to put up those Jersey barriers.
And I found out today at a meeting at the State House that we get a couple of extra points for signing the compact toward qualifying for that small bridge grant.
That's good. Terrawood Kennels just not that the board's taking any action about this tonight, but we've got in stuff that's come in since the board's
Do
meeting.
you want me to give you a brief update, or no?
How brief?
No. I'm gonna say no, but.
Well,
Then I don't need to.
I'll tell you what's come in, simply that we do have a copy from Attorney Mayo of the noise mitigation plan that the board agreed to back a couple of weeks ago. We do have a letter from Ms. Cho's sound engineer concerning what she thinks is the amount of decibel level that's going to be decreased. I will note there's nothing in the decision the board approved about decibel levels at all.
I was very concerned about that. I shared with Charlie, that note troubled me because it sort of said in my mind that, you know, we're gonna lower it by half, but that's not what the neighbors had agreed to. They don't wanna hear barking,
It's also
so.
not what the board's voted on.
Right, I understand that, but I thought it would be a good idea for our attorney to send the attorney a letter just saying, thank you for your note about the reduction of decibels, but we want to remind you that this may still not fix the problem, that it's Ms. Choate's decision to invest in these improvements, and we're hopeful that it will be acceptable to the neighbors, but half may not be enough.
I think that's in line there. I think that's a good idea. And I think we tried to discuss that and say that these mitigation,
Well, I think the expert that they had should have, in fact, because I said to them before they left, I don't know if you remember that, you need to contact your expert and tell us how many decibels it's going to go down.
she was pretty clear that it was still going to be heard.
But I know-
At least that's what I got from
Right,
it.
and I know that we verbally did tell Ms. Choate that evening that, you know, you're willing to invest in this project, but it may not be acceptable. But when we got that letter separate, it bothered me because I didn't want it to be that they could come back and say, well, we said it would only be half.
Right. No,
And I don't-
that's well taken.
That's
I
not
think
what
that's
our
appropriate.
intention was, yeah.
You're gonna have to excuse me, it must be about 110 degrees
I
in
can
here.
run the AC.
Actually,
That's
120.
fine, that gets noisy.
Okay. We do have a notification from the
Just
ZBA
my jacket.
that the hearing on the proposed increase in the number of dogs before the ZBA has been continued now to October 17th. Won't be happening this month, or didn't happen this month, it got moved to the 17th. Also, and it's connected but not connected specifically with Terwood or any other kennel, is that we have information about the changes in what's called the tethering law. Chapter 140, Section 174E, this is about how many hours a dog can be left outside, under what conditions and such. My plan, unless would like me to do something else, would be to, for instance, we'll publicize this when the time comes, but also probably send something out to all the kennels in town to notify them specifically that this law exists.
And I would also send a copy to the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think it would be helpful to them as well. And I know that I had asked Larry to forward a copy to Ms. Choate's attorney, so they are in receipt of the latest things. I think it takes effect on November
17th, something like
17th,
that.
but it talks about the number of hours that you can keep a dog out, and it also talks about making sure that the dog is protected from any inclement weather, like whether it's snow, rain, that they need to be protected. So that law will now ensure that those dogs have protection.
Doesn't say they can't be out in the weather, it said they can't be out there more than an order amount of time. So
Right, but
they'll
it said
suffer.
like if it does have a specific area about kenneling dogs and making sure that they are protected from the weather. Unless they're just going to the bathroom and coming back in, but if they're gonna be out there.
And I did want to reiterate,
More than an hour.
more for the public than for the board, that while the board made the decision a couple of weeks ago in terms of the, indicating what measures need to be taken, that the board's continuing to monitor the situation, both on its own and through its appointee for investigator.
Seamus.
For the next few weeks, we're going to be revisiting this subject on the 27th, and we'll see what progress has been made and whether, in fact, the noise has been reduced to a level that's satisfactory to the abutters, and if not, then the board will have some decisions to
I'm
make.
sorry the chief is not still here. I want to know if we get any more complaints since the last
I
time.
believe the chief has gotten one or more complaints in the
Yes,
interim.
we have, so I've been monitoring, as the special investigator, I've been monitoring the logs and the phone calls, and I also have been doing my own investigation on sound.
Did we go through the police department, get her investigator's license privateer?
They gave her a badge.
Okay.
Yeah, it's this big.
She has this hat that says commissioner, just saying.
Troy has one too.
Okay. I see
You
how
have to
that
go
works.
down there to
Mine's
get
bigger.
yours.
I see how that works.
It is not freely given time, you need to go down there and ask for it.
Okay.
People are-
Okay, and just on
No,
the, so
then
I
have
know
to
the
go out and
board,
investigate.
I know the board met with the Solar Field Committee last week. I got a copy of the RFP. I was actually here Monday last week and came in just before I left. I made copies.
Yeah, I wanted that on there because we talked about the request for proposals and one of the changes. I don't know if the board had an opportunity to review the paperwork that they gave us. Am I losing my voice?
We did review it that
Yeah.
night. I know that they were sent, we were waiting for people to respond to the, what do you call it?
Yeah.
RFP?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know who's supposed to respond to it.
You haven't sent it out yet, have we?
No.
I thought it was sent out.
No.
No, they were just showing us.
They were
the-
showing us.
Oh, okay.
No, I mean, I'm gonna have to be doing advertising and everything like that
Okay.
as part of that process.
Mhm.
The only concern I have, and I'm not saying it stops the RFP from being sent out, is we may, because we're doing this on a capped landfill, I'm not quite sure if there's gonna be any engineering studies that are gonna have to be done. I want to check, I know DEP has issued a helpful booklet on the subject of putting solar fields on capped landfills. I want to review that before the RFP goes out to make sure that,
That's covered.
yeah, but I want to get it out of here, yes.
I thought it was all set.
And just a couple other things, on the last drink data, we got the report for April through June, clean bill of health, no problems with any establishments. And like I said, I'm going to see the Concom next week on the 20th about the East Mont Ponce Pond boat ramp. And that's what I've got. Representative Coulter was scheduled to come in to see you tonight, but it's not a legal hearing or anything, so if you'd like to meet with the
Well,
board at this
we
point.
want to keep them up past his bedtime, so we might.
Oh,
might need
I'm sorry.
earlier.
Yeah, and we'll talk about Silver Lake. I know he was coming in to talk with you about
We
the
have
state
a
budget.
ton.
But we still have those
Abatements.
abatements.
You want to get the abatements done, or do you?
Yeah, I'd like to go through those first.
Okay.
Hopefully it won't take us that long. I mean, the majority of them have already
Yeah,
sent us
pretty much
letters.
right. You guys looked at the, yeah. Okay.
So if you remember, we need to do them by bill number.
And could you note those that do in fact have a letter attached to
Do you want
it?
me just to make the motions?
Well,
Yeah,
Because
please.
they're all basically the same.
Yeah.
There's two,
There's only two that don't have letters,
right.
and
so
one
why don't
has
you
this
do-
agreement.
Everybody's are in the same order as mine.
Yeah.
We're on the same order.
So
okay?
start, okay, why don't you start reading them off?
Okay, so we got bill number 2252.
Oh, we had 401 first.
Are you kidding me?
I've got 2252.
Oh, okay, I lied.
You're always different, Kim.
I wanted to see the panic in your face.
Because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, so, 2252, this one, let me see. Okay, again, there's a letter from the recycling company that they do.
Single stream
Yeah,
recycling, so I'll make a
Yeah.
motion that we abate bill number 2252.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The next bill number 401 is the same company, same letter. I will make a
Yeah.
motion that we abate bill number 401.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. The third one is bill number 1013. It's again the same company, same letter. I make a motion that we abate bill number 1013.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Bill number 1498, the same. I make a motion that we abate bill number 1498.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. This is a new disposal company.
Yeah,
actually.
they came in town very aggressive.
Right.
They came in.
So I'll make a motion that we abate number 1542 as well.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion that we abate
You can go up there.
2421, I'm tired.
2421.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, this is a new company, but this is a letter,
Yes, this is, we've
do
done.
that they
these
collect
on
all single stream,
That's, what are you talking about, 1885?
1885, yes.
We did this for them last year.
Yes, this is ABC, right.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion that we abate bill number 1885.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. And then this is a new company.
Okay, this gentleman, yeah, okay, so let's see what we got here. Okay, yeah, they're new, I mean,
But they didn't specifically say, well, it says
well,
he has trash recycle services, so I'm assuming that's,
yeah.
Didn't specifically say that this person is using his service.
It has his name and address on the letter.
yeah. So I'll make a motion that we abate number 546.
That was, all. Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So this, the next one does not have a letter
Okay,
from the
right.
private hauler.
He has, it's that same hall that everyone is using.
Oh, Dooley, yeah, but he doesn't have, oh, but it's the
He has his
same.
agreement, he didn't get his letter, and he was,
It's probably the same though, because,
so, I mean, now, next year, if they have the service agreement, well, now they have the letter in the computer now, I think Julie has it, so I don't think they have a problem
Well,
with getting us.
I think we'll approve it with a caveat that he gets the letter to us.
sure.
To give him an opportunity to get the letter to us, but I think we can approve it for tonight.
Okay, so do this,
Yep,
and then.
so we'll skip 466. Is that what you're saying, Troy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not skip it,
No,
that we in fact
we're gonna.
Abate it, okay, so I'll make
give the
it,
abatement, but
Okay.
with a caveat that we send a letter to him, that he still gets a letter to us from the companies.
I'll make a motion that we abate number 466.
Since the company's already sent out
Second.
7 of them to our town,
Yeah.
we should be able to send one more.
Okay, so, and then the next one has to do with water meter, so they are part-time, so it's a vacant home.
Yeah.
So, the water's been shut off.
Since September 15.
Yeah,
so-
but the water meter was removed. The house is still there, it's vacant.
Right,
And he lives, he has one house side by side, he lives out right next to the house, and he said he had no intention of renting it
the
out.
electricity is
And there's
off.
no one in the house right now, as
No,
far as we know.
No, the meter's gone. Kathy confirmed that the meter was taken out,
Okay.
so there's no water.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we abate number 959.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we got the signs.
And the only other thing is to reappoint Tim Watts to the Taunton River Stewardship
Oh,
Council.
right.
So moved.
Second.
Hold on.
Pam, is this for June 30th?
Kim?
Oh, no, this one is.
All in favor?
Aye.
That one is for, October 1st.
Representative
Yes.
Coulter,
Okay, so yeah, you guys just sign all
would
these.
you please sojourn to the front of the room?
So this is, so I reappoint.
That's what you're saying now.
Who did the reappointment?
Wait until we get through.
Actually, Troy moved it and Tom seconded. Oh, I'm sorry.
By the way, we know we're broke, so don't tell us anything different.
We're giving you money.
Oh, no, we're hearing you're broke.
What, you mean the town?
No, the state is.
Oh, their state
Yes.
is, there's no question about it.
Probably because you're giving us all your money.
But at some point, can we talk about Silver Lake?
Of course. Of course.
It's very official.
Pass them down so we can.
It's a little bit dated, since the budget's been passed, but I thought the process that we went through to get there would be interesting. So I thought we should proceed. Well, I will say that this budget year was probably the most unusual of the 10 I've been involved with. And the reason it was so difficult is because we could not gain any consensus on revenue. Our income from tax revenue was so erratic, right down to the final 3 months of the previous fiscal year, that it was difficult to gain consensus between House leaders, Senate leaders, the governor, and the economic folks that advise us as to what tax revenue would be for fiscal year 2017. So just kind of a side note as to why that happened and why I believe it'll continue to happen. Here's an interesting statistic that's at the very base of this argument. We now, for the first time in the history of the Commonwealth, have more citizens older than 60 than we have under 20.
Careful.
That doesn't make us bad people.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm only 1 year shy of that. But what's happened, quite honestly, folks, are people retiring in massive numbers right now. By way of example, nationally, approximately 40,000 nurses retire a year. This year, we're on pace to have 85,000 nurses retire nationally.
So they're gonna have a shortage in the medical field.
And they're having a shortage in almost every area because we don't have the students, going back to that previous data, that we have fewer people under 20 than greater than 60, and we have fewer people graduating from high school than a decade ago. So combine that with what I call the skills gap, where kids are graduating from college without the requisite skills needed to fill the high-tech jobs of today, and you've got open jobs. It's been estimated that we have more unfilled, high-skilled positions right now in the Commonwealth, well-paying, high-skilled positions, and we have people in the unemployment.
I retired too early.
But many of our citizens don't have the requisite skills needed to do those jobs. If you recall, 5, 6, it was longer now, it was 8 years ago, we invested as a Commonwealth almost $1 billion in high-tech industries. In biotech, robotics, big data, green energy, life sciences, biotech. And those sectors are growing at double-digit numbers every single year. And those sectors are telling us the biggest problem they have in their growth trajectory is being able to fill the capacity needed to do that job, to meet the demand. So if you think about it, if you've got unfilled positions, you don't have tax revenue associated with those jobs. And so that's what was causing the erratic spikes up and down at the tail end of last fiscal year. Right now, in the first 2 months of this year, in the month of July, our first month of the fiscal year, we were $27 million ahead of benchmark. In the month of August, we were $44 million behind benchmark. So, good news, bad news. Bad news is that if we have 2 or 3 months in a row where we're under benchmark because we have a constitutional requirement, unlike the federal government, to balance the budget, there will be 9 seat cuts.
Yeah, we talked about those today at a meeting I went to.
But they will not be in local aid, Chapter 7 or Chapter 9,
Well,
unless there was a catastrophic condition.
Right, the thing that we talked about today was the thought that perhaps it could be in circuit breaker, which is a special education.
Which I would disagree with.
Okay.
No, not that it could happen.
Oh, okay.
I would disagree with that action.
No, I
And
understand.
we're making commitments today against the circuit breaker that have to be honored. I spoke with the governor a week ago Thursday and told him that in his wisdom and his capacity to make 9 seat cuts, that there are a number of other areas I'd rather consider before that.
Yeah, I don't want to interrupt your presentation again.
I do agree with you that that's where they're looking. I disagree that that's where we should be looking.
No, I understand.
We have made cuts in state government, contrary to what most people think, over my 10 years there, that are extraordinary. Remember something, the voter referendum of 11 years ago required the income tax to be lowered from 5.9 to 5.3. Strike that, 5.0. And today, where we stand, we're at 5.05.
Yeah, but what was supposed to happen, I believe on January 1st, it was supposed to go back to 5, but because the revenues are so low,
That's correct.
it's not going to happen. So we're looking at a structural deficit even before lowering.
$40 million.
Exactly.
So the reduction, which was scheduled for January 1st, is now not going to happen because the revenues fell off at the end of the year. Those reductions are triggered by our revenue stream. But just by point of information, we've got fewer employees in state government today than we had when I took office 10 years ago. Another point of information, my salary has been adjusted only 3 times in those 10 years. And I may say, my heart bleeds for you. But all 3 adjustments have been down, where state rep salaries have been reduced. State government is being squeezed tighter than ever before. And you're beginning to see it in the service product. And we're going to continue to see it in the service product. And people want to know why. That reduction from 5.9 to 5.05 is about $3 billion. $3 billion that we had to cut out of the budget over the past 10 years. And And we're struggling to deal with that. We're deferring bridge repairs, we're deferring road repairs, we're deferring capital investments. Now, I'm not asking for a tax increase, but as the town leaders, it's important that you know there are consequences of budgeting and managing this way. And the
We live it every day.
We're well aware of that.
and the consequences are that we are not meeting our responsibilities to future generations to maintain our infrastructure. And I say that in every presentation you have, and most politicians don't want to say it because they want to report that everything's just wonderful. We are deferring our obligations and putting them off to future generations. It's important everybody be aware of that.
Some of us feel, myself included in this, it's not that we're not spending enough, we're not getting enough. I've always had the impression that we pay fair wage, we spend a lot of money, the T comes to mind. I don't think there's been quite enough reforms in some areas. Again, it's because we're not spending the money. I think we're not getting our bang for the buck, if you will. And that's one of the things that we have a better shot at on a municipal
On the
level.
local level.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not blaming you, I'm just
Well, that's
making
okay.
that as a comment.
I'm only getting very
statewide.
broad
Yeah.
shoulders, I can handle it. But the truth be told, quite honestly, look at DEP in Lakeville. Kim and I are down there every other month. There are 30% number of employees there now that were there 10 years ago. So when we talk about not getting enough, you can only do so much with so little for so long.
I'm just saying in certain areas where
Sure.
that's taking funds from other areas.
I'm not going to disagree with that, Tom, but it's not going to negate an assertion that we're leaving liabilities till tomorrow's generation.
No, I understand.
And we're also driving over roads and bridges that are functionally broken. We put paint on bridges and we say they're redundant. And I just think as leaders, we better start talking about that. Charlie Baker wants to talk about that. He's an extraordinary leader and he's doing a great job, and he's talking about data. He's using straight talk. The last governor wouldn't. He wanted to keep it quiet because it was politically correct. Well, we better start talking about having wastewater treatment systems that are 57, 67, 80 years old.
Right.
Gas pipelines in Boston that are made of wood. Made of wood.
But they put tar on it, though.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, we gotta start fixing it.
Well, infrastructure's always taking short shrift, always, because it's not visible for the most part.
Yeah, you can't see
Until it's
it.
broken.
Right.
And, we have an example of that in our own backyard. You know, Montponce Pond has been a focal point for the last several years because it's on the verge of being completely broken.
Right.
But for 100 years, Brockton was destroying that body of water. But it wasn't broken yet. And now it's a crisis.
Yeah, let's talk, well, I'm gonna pause you there, unless you wanna talk about Monpont after your presentation.
I would be happy to. Let me just go through these charts with you very quickly. I will say to you that I represent 6 towns. Halifax got more money in this budget than all 5 of my other towns combined. It's been a good year for Halifax. If you go to the chapter 70, you can see the increase year over year. Excuse me. From $3.8 billion to $3.934. It's an increase of $100 million in chapter 70. The way the increase happened is a minimum increase of $55 a pupil versus the $25 a pupil that we've had for the past several years. For Halifax, that resulted in a $31,845 increase in chapter 70. I'll fly through this, it's kind of dated, a month into the fiscal year. When you look at local aid, the increase was $979 million to $1,021,000,021, a $42 million increase in local aid. And for Halifax, that difference is $35,983. You can see this chart, and I think this chart is horribly misleading, and I'm going to tell you why. You see the increase from 2012 in Halifax local aid from 712 to 872. You know, it looks really nice, this growing spike over 5, 6, 7 years. When you adjust for inflation, your local aid is almost 20% lower than it was 15 years ago. Almost 20% less than it was 15 years ago. You can see the summary of Chapter 70 and local aid on the next page. Chapter 90 Chapter 90 funds for Halifax from the state, $268,000. And the CPA funds, as you know, you don't participate in that. Looking at the very last page, for Halifax, there's $50,000 for the Central Plymouth Water District Commission to improve the lakes and ponds. That's what I call soft allocation. They can use that for legal, they can use it for testing, they can use it for consultants. $100,000 is dedicated for testing and treatment of the cyanobacteria-related contaminants at Montponset Pond. And then there's $50,000 for the expansion of the Council on Aging. That $50,000 is a hard number. That can be used for soft costs like engineering, design, so forth and so on. But down below, there's an additional $200,000 for the Council on Aging that is in the FY17 Economic Development Plan published by Secretary Jay Ash, the Secretary of Economic Development. That money is used for construction, and it can only come after you move forward on a project. But I want to be clear, and I'd like this documented. It's bond money, so it's in the bond, but it has to be applied for. And I will have to fight for that bond money. By that I mean, it could be $1 billion bond. There are $3 billion worth of expenditures in the bond bill. So they're first of all looking for a commitment from the town in terms of a town meeting vote to spend the money to build or rebuild or whatever you choose to do, a Council on Aging. When that happens, Senator Brady and I will go to the governor and say, we've done our part. Now we want this $200,000 released from the capital bond bill. And we'll be successful because it's in the bond bill and the town has done its part. But I just want to be clear to everybody in town, it's not an allocation you're going to get a check for next week. It requires a request for those funds, followed by a town's commitment to do construction. Okay? That's the budget year. I will keep you posted along the way. If it appears that the governor will be making 9C cuts, I'll always seek your feedback as council as to where you think those cuts should be made. I'm very pleased with this administration. They're responsible, they communicate, they make clear and direct and open, honest decisions. They've been responsible for opening up the Commonwealth's checkbook to the public. You can look at every single check written by the Commonwealth now. You can get the salaries of every single employee who works for the Commonwealth. So it's a pleasure to work with this team, and I think we're making great progress. These are just very unusual times. In spite of unemployment low and GDP high, economic development real, and opportunities great, our revenues are under stress. And we have to be very cautious in terms of how we manage those revenues.
I think we were all sort of blindsided by that. I was anyway. I mean, you know, I serve on the MMA board. I also serve on the local government advisory commission. So once a month will meet with town officials, with the lieutenant governor. Most of the time, we've been lucky enough to have the governor attend. And when I met with them today, they're an administration that actually listens. Like, we give them ideas, and they actually, that small bridge program, like that was a direct request from us having this monthly discussion saying, these are the things that would help these communities, and it matters more to the small communities. So
they're outstanding with respect
to
their
really
relations.
are. I mean, they are partners, and that community compact is not just a way to, look good. They mean it, and they want to empower the cities and towns. And just by being part of it, we could qualify, for the small bridge program. For
Have you received any money yet as a result of the community compact?
We've received.
We have 3 grants. One for transparency and financial policies, one for capital planning, and one for IT security.
And they just today enrolled like the next phase of it, which we wouldn't qualify because we've already gotten grants this round, but there's other things that could help.
Kingston just received $88,000 to upgrade their IT department, a grant. And they wouldn't have gone it without signing the community compact.
Yeah, so the administration has definitely been a great partner for local officials, and I think it helped that they were local officials, that both Charlie Baker and Karen Polito were selectmen, and so I think they get it. You don't even have to really explain much to them, and they get it, so that's a really good thing.
And I tell you, since I've been in office, it's the best that I've seen, and we haven't got the money, still don't have the money that I'd like to see us go, in Montponset, but it's better than it has been. at least you're giving us the opportunity to make plans ahead of time, knowing what's going down in the legislature.
Yep.
So that we know what we're in for and what we can and can't do.
Now, if we could just get the Senate on board,
I
we'll
know.
sing Kumbaya together.
So there's a couple of subjects that I would like to talk to
Great.
you about, and one of them is Silver Lake, one of them is the Monpont Pond, and the other one is Pot.
I'd love to talk
So you
about
can
it.
roll the wheel and pick whichever one you want to come up with first.
You mean marijuana?
Yes.
Marijuana, Mary
That one for
Jane?
me is quite simple. As you know, I've been involved with this opiate fight for well before we called it an epidemic. Everywhere I get a chance to speak, if I'm speaking about pencils, I bring up the marijuana
Yeah.
ballot question. Study after study after study has been done to prove or disprove whether marijuana is a gateway drug to something harder. And you get people on both sides who bring their opinions to the table before they even look at the data. I'm working very hard to defeat this ballot question. I just don't think now is a time to legalize marijuana in the Commonwealth. I think, my son is a police officer, and if he pulls kids over now, they tell him the law. And, it's decriminalized already, and they'll pull out a joint and smoke it right in front of them. I mean, it's a very difficult time with this opiate epidemic. Now's not a time to introduce another drug. Now, if you look at it from the economic standpoint, Colorado legalized marijuana 18 months ago, well, 20 months ago now. And the governor of Colorado said that it is the single biggest mistake he's ever made in his life.
Yeah, I've heard
He
that.
he regrets having ever signed the legislation. Homicides are up, crime is up, cross-border arrests are up, driving under the influence is up. Everything is up. And even the proponents of this referendum can't deny that Colorado is 20 months ahead of us, and that their state is in a crisis, and the data has spiked precipitously and without any warning until they legalize marijuana.
Well, and the other thing, sorry, Charlie.
That's okay. This is, everybody says it's a new problem. It's not a new problem. In 1976, I got a grant for something like $48,000 to start a teen center to deal with the drug problems that was here, because I was seeing people go around the middle of the pond with boats with no rods and stuff and passing things back and forth in the cranberry bogs. But it was told me at that time that because I was from the big city, they didn't have those problems here. And it's always been a problem. It's just now, it's just like the iPhones. It's more public now than it has been.
A concern that is, if I were in the town of Halifax, if I lived here, that I would have, or in the town of Kingston or Plymouth, if Massachusetts legalizes marijuana,
We're the big hotspot.
we're gonna be the hot spot from all over North.
From Plymouth on straight back.
Well, there's a couple of things that we talked about today at the MMA, and there's a couple of flawed things that are within the ballot question. Some of it is the tax that's proposed for us to collect is not as much as Colorado's or California. Is it California?
Colorado has-
Or Washington State.
Colorado has collected 30% of the tax revenue they projected.
Right, and, but plus, we've even given it, we've started here on the percentage that we're looking for. There's nothing in place, again, you tell the story about your son being a police officer, there's nothing in place for driving under the influence of pot. There's nothing in place for the edibles. The edibles is really the most frightening thing of all of this, because it looks like candy,
Tastes like
and it's a very potent thing where a kid takes it, chews it, eats it. They don't feel it right away as when you take a hit off of a
You sound experienced.
what do they call it? Joint. Thank you. I'm wicked experienced. No. This is what I feel like. So when they chew the chewable, they don't really feel anything, and then it hits you. And so these kids are going to be really attracted because you can't smell alcohol. Like if they're not going to be sneaking alcohol,
There's no
they
indicators.
can chew something. They're not going to, smell like marijuana. They're not going to smell like alcohol. It is a frightening thing. And you have a super PAC that is funding 90% of their campaign to get the word out. It is frightening.
On the edibles, I'm so glad you raised that, Kim. It is the most frightening part. We have to remember something. When we were kids, we all knew about marijuana.
I never knew.
You should know what they were called, Joyce.
Well, I didn't know until I was a junior in high school, but I'm old.
I thought Mary Jane was somebody's girlfriend or something. I never knew Mary Jane was.
But let me tell you something, the marijuana that they're making these days, and
More
the
powerful.
chewables they're making these days, has 10 times the THC that was in pot when we were kids. This is a real drug, and if your 5-year-old grandson, or if my 5-year-old grandson ever got a hold of one of those edibles, it could kill them. 10 times the level of THC. Just like the heroin stream that's in our system now, that's on our streets now. Heroin, when we were kids, as dangerous as it was, as powerful as it was not laced with fentanyl.
Right.
Now the heroin is laced with fentanyl. It is a drug that is 10 times worse than the heroin that was done when we were kids.
Yeah.
And so I'm standing firm against that referendum question. I'm going to work against the passage of that referendum. I'm going to speak at every single event during the campaign season. I think our kids deserve better, and I don't quite honestly care about the political consequence. I think all of us should be out hard against this thing.
I agree with you 100%.
I'd ask Mr. Chairman if you'd consider it tonight or some future date. The other boards I've spoken to have taken up votes as a board. I'm not asking you to do it now.
Oh, I'll do it.
Be here, but to take a formal position on that referendum question.
Yeah, I would make a motion. that we-
I'm mortified. I haven't been in law enforcement for 35 years before I, came on this end of it. I've seen the results when I worked with juvenile delinquents back in the 70s when they were busing the whole bit. I saw the results and overdoses of kids that started out with marijuana and the type of things they did to themselves. So I absolutely against a moratorium making it legal. I don't think so. I think the medical portion of it, it's questionable, but just making it legal just so anybody can buy it, no.
I make a motion that we oppose ballot question for legalized marijuana.
Second that.
I'll third it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, that's a mandate.
All right, so that's off that list. Okay, now you get 2 more to pick from.
Would you like, before we talk about the fun issue, would you like to talk about another ballot question? Would you like to talk about charter schools? Or would you like to leave that one off?
I think we should leave it. What do you think, Charlie? I think for tonight, I don't.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
I'll come back before November.
Yeah, we'll close that one too, but no. Kidding. All right, so do you want to talk about Silver Lake, or do you want to talk about Monpont?
They're related in my mind, so whatever you'd like to.
Oh, no, I want to talk about not Silver
Silver
Lake,
Lake
the lake.
School,
Silver
The
Lake.
Silver
land.
Lake
Oh,
land.
let's talk about that. I discussed that with Clinton last night.
Yeah, do you want to tell your story, and then we can,
Story.
I'll tell you the facts.
okay.
And I was very clear with Plimpton last night that I was very disappointed with their finance person who was spreading untruths, and she told me she was mistaken, and we moved on. The reality is, my role in this issue is I'm your state representative. When you want legislation filed, you come to me and I file it. I was approached by Silver Lake Regional School Committee following their vote to file special legislation which allowed for a land conveyance for the purpose of Kingston buying land from them to build a police department. That is my complete role in it. Because there is nothing in statute that allows for a district to sell land. If it were a town selling land, it would be a home rule petition. But because there's nothing in statute that allows a district to sell land, special legislation was required which authorized them to do so. And so I filed the legislation after the language was worked out between the district attorney, Fred Dupree, and the town attorney, Jay Tallow.
From Kingston.
From Kingston, well, the buyer and the seller.
Yeah.
So the language was worked out between the buyer and the seller. They forwarded it to me. I gave it to House Counsel, who perfected it, so it was in proper form, and it was filed.
I don't want to get technical now, but you're talking about the buyer and the seller. But there was no seller at that point. They're becoming the seller. This legislation makes them a seller.
No, this legislation just permits them to do a transaction should they get to an offer and accept.
No, I
Right,
understand,
but
but you're-
Tom's point is that you're having an attorney for Kingston, only one attorney from one of the 3 communities like write up what they think that the legislation should look like.
In other words, what they're saying is, was the district fully represented by just having someone from Kingston negotiate what they're saying?
Kingston is negotiating as the buyer. The school district, school committee represents the district as the seller.
No, they're not a seller yet because they don't have the right to sell it. What they're gaining now is they're going after the right to sell the property. So they negotiated to be a seller of the property that, we all own, I guess is where I'm coming from. And we didn't have any inclusion in this.
Yeah, I'm not gonna debate who owns it, who doesn't. The district is recognized as the owner of that property.
Which is all three towns.
Correct. And your school committee members are the representatives of the district, just like they negotiate contracts with their teachers. They are your duly elected representatives of the district. When it went to House Counsel, the purpose of House Counsel, they're not interested in the substance, they're interested in the legality of it.
Right, I understand.
House Counsel is the one that said the buyer is the town of Kingston, the seller is the Silver Lake School District, represented by their elected members of the region.
Didn't it fail at town meeting, so why are we continuing this?
It's coming back to town meeting in October, next month.
They're gonna try for the police station again?
Yes.
Oh, I
Have a
didn't know
special?
that. Oh, I didn't know that.
Special town meeting in October.
That's why I was confused of why we were doing it.
That's
so-
why I was asked to file it.
Okay, I had no idea. I thought it was just.
By the way, I was asked to file it by the district, not by the town of Kingston, by the school district.
No, I know, I was at the.
Maureen Springer was at the Plimpton,
Oh, I'm sure she was.
Selectmen meeting during the presentation last night, and she kept reminding them, when they said they had no representation in this bargain, and she kept reminding them, am I invisible here?
Yeah, no,
I
I was at the
represent the
school
town of
committee.
Kingston.
I was at the school committee meeting when they made the vote to ask you to do it.
Yeah. I mean, if you asked me to file legislation to change a bylaw in the town, which I completely disagreed with, I still have an obligation to file the legislation.
Can we ask
Well, what
you to
was
file?
coming out of Plimpton is that I filed that legislation so that town meetings were not
I'm
required.
annoyed with this thing. Not you, I'm annoyed with the process.
I feel like.
I'm sitting here thinking to myself, well, maybe we should ask you to file legislation that's different than that legislation to authorize Silver Lake with the consent of the towns.
Mhm.
And it's a competing bill.
House counsel would rule that the legal representatives of the district are the
Is
school
the
committee
district.
members. So House counsel would probably, I should
Not
say, rule it
entertain.
out of order.
So I don't understand. So you're saying that Plimpton was saying what?
The finance committee in Plimpton, and I know they'll be watching this. The finance committee in Plimpton, a member of the finance committee in Plimpton is the one that planted a rumor that Tom Coulter filed legislation so that the towns would not have to vote. And it's just not true.
Right, because we were on the impression, I think, that we did, last spring, we had the article on our town warrant, because we were on the impression last spring that it was a vote of the three towns. Am I right, John?
Well, that's what they were looking at.
Right, that's what we thought it was.
That's what Fred Dupree had recommended,
Yes.
not as a matter of law, as a matter of courtesy.
Oh, I didn't think it was courtesy.
Oh, no,
Because at one point afterwards,
Fred Dupree agreed on the language for the legislation.
okay.
And so the biggest, the issue that we have right now, well, it's not an issue, but the facts are that we voted a school committee member to vote in our stead. Whether that person voted yes or no, if he was outnumbered by votes, it went by the committee.
And I don't know how you're a member of.
Yeah, they all voted against it.
Yeah.
So right now it stands that it's before which committee?
Third reading,
Right, but before the House, before the municipalities committee.
that's correct.
Well, which
Oh, it
one?
came out of the municipality.
Okay, so there was no hearing.
No, it's a special legislation. I don't believe there was a hearing.
Okay, so in fact, no one's asked for our input.
I don't believe there were hearings on home rule or special legislation.
I think that's a concern for the board, because I think the board, and maybe, I don't know about Plimpton, but they may feel the same way, is they feel that their voices aren't being heard.
Right,
And
we're
I'm
not in session anymore. There are no hearings,
Okay,
Okay.
but the legislation's moving along anyway.
as legislation does every day. We have informal sessions twice a week.
Then I guess the question for the board is, who do they contact to voice how they feel about this? Because I know the board has communicated with you. They understood that you were obligated professionally
Yeah.
to file legislation. They don't have any problem with that. The concern for the board was the way the legislation reads right now is the town has no voice in this matter.
Okay, well, town council, Charlie, again, will disagree with you.
Well, Kingston Town Council.
No. House council
Oh,
will
House.
disagree with you. They will say, for the umpteenth time, your representation is your regional school committee. And they would not have allowed it to go to the committee or to third reading without it being legal on all four corners of the law.
Well, but of course, I could find another attorney who might disagree with that. For instance, I believe.
No, but this is the one that matters.
I understand that, but it matters in the sense of the business of the House.
Okay.
But in the sense of Plimpton's town council has in fact said quite the opposite.
No, it matters in the opinion of the House as it relates to current law, statute.
But my point is that I understand the House and the Senate and the governor might sign all this. It might be helpful that rather than go through all that and then have somebody sue the state for taking an action that wasn't within its rights to do, or for that matter, having the legislation pass and then one party suing, let's say, Silver Lake and Kingston, to prevent them from doing so, despite the fact that the law was passed, because the law might be incorrect to begin with, that the basis for it was incorrect.
Well, then that would go to the Supreme Court.
Well, like I said, but my point is, rather than having lots of people spend lots of money with very little product to get everybody in and talk about this and work it out before we have to
I
file suits
believe,
against each
you
other.
may not have been notified, but as a result of last meeting, Plimpton has requested a meeting before the Silver Lake Regional School Committee, and then they asked that Halifax be invited to that. So I think all of you are going to be brought together to talk about it.
We are.
Yes.
Well,
before the Silver Lake
the
School Committee.
13th is what the,
When is it?
I think I wrote the 13th.
October?
I will email over to you all tomorrow the opinion of House Counsel, who said that the Silver Lake Regional School Committee is the representation of the town, and that is based primarily on precedent. There have been more than a dozen transfers of land from a regional school district to a third party, and not one of those transactions required a town meeting vote.
Has it ever happened to a town that had 50% of the representation?
As the buyer,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know. I can pose that question to House Counsel.
because that is
Well,
is
I guess
important to me.
That's what
Then
they're
I guess
taking.
then, but it goes back to maybe my original question about, despite the fact that House Council's indicated this, and I'm not saying that the House Council's wrong, but nevertheless, it doesn't prevent legislation from being amended to reflect the concerns of the other communities. So the question then goes back, that the board has is, who do they communicate to get their opinion voiced? If there's no public hearing, if there's no formal place for input from other interested parties, and there's no question in my mind, Silver Lake didn't get money from the tree. They got it from the three towns at some point to purchase this land. They didn't just find it on the ground.
Say that again?
When Silver Lake bought the land, they didn't find money on the ground and say, ooh, let's use this money to purchase land. They got the money from someplace. The only place they could have got it was from the three towns. The three towns gave Silver Lake money to use to buy land. Now, we didn't give them money to then sell it off.
But what he's saying is that they are elected to make that
No,
decision.
I understand that, I understand the point, but in terms of where both Plimpton and Halifax are coming from is, we have an interest, not just a voting interest at the Silver Lake Committee, but a monetary interest, that if we give money for certain purposes to Silver Lake, for Silver Lake then to use that money or the equivalent asset in a totally different fashion and sell it off, there's a problem.
I hear what you're saying, Charlie, they're going to change, but did we not advocate our rights when we voted to assign a person to a Silver Lake School Committee and gave them the authority to vote in our stead? We in fact said that. The only thing that we didn't do, and I still think what you said about the meeting on the 13th, you know, I wasn't aware of that.
Because they just, Plimpton's.
Exactly, that's gonna happen. You know, so at least get a voice in that, so maybe a stronger voice than our representatives.
Well, our representatives voted against it.
No,
Yeah, I know.
Because I can tell, this has been, I've been in the audience through most of this. There's a few of these meetings that I have
And
missed.
the funny thing is about this, Kim, is I haven't been. And yet, I was accused by Plimpton of being behind the curtain on this.
But let me just tell you what I thought. And, you know, I assumed that it was the vote of the 3 towns, because again, for all the points that you just said, that it should be the 3 towns. And as long as we're following the right process is all I care about. I would assume that it would be the 3 towns, because we can't even spend a dime for a pen without it going to town meeting. So I'm a big proponent of town meeting making as many decisions as they can, because that's the state that we live in. But if it's not legally, the same way we sign the contract with Duxbury, that's our role as elected officials. If it's their role as an elected official,
Meaning the school committee.
the school committee, to sell the land,
Well, it isn't yet, that's the whole point.
no, I know, I understand what
Right.
you're saying. You know what, that's an important point. It wasn't. But he's saying that
It could be if the legislation's approved.
no, but you're saying that the state
that's
council's
not
saying that
what
it
I'm
should be.
saying, Charlie.
Except
This-
that-
No, he's saying that state council is saying
Yes.
that it is the right role of
But
the
only if the
elected
legislation is
officials.
passed.
Right.
If the legislation's not passed, they don't have the right to sell the land.
If the school committee had put in their
It's on
petition, subject to a vote of town meeting,
We'd be good.
then that would be the law.
Oh,
That wasn't the request.
It wasn't a
Yeah,
request.
they were circumventing the towns is
No,
what they were
I
doing.
didn't use that word.
I am. You don't have to. I am.
They
I
are
am.
the elected body, and this House Council has said that as the duly elected representatives of the Silver Lake Regional School District, that is their authority and their right.
And the reason they circumvented it is because they wanted to spend the money in any way that they want to, because the money goes.
no, it will
towards
still
the-
go to us.
Well, and even if it was coming to us, they
No,
were circumventing basically to say,
they're
we
not
don't want the
distributing
town,
the
we
money.
want to sell the
Town-
property,
town-
no matter what.
But we're getting the money.
Doesn't matter whether we're
You'll
getting the
never
money
see
or not.
that money.
I'm sorry?
I said, we'll never
We
get
won't
it
see
directly.
that
I mean,
money.
What you talking about, Willis?
will be used
No,
for
but
reduction,
the
but
point
it
is,
isn't
what they were circumventing was not who got the money, they were circumventing the
The
right
process.
of the
No, I understand
residents
that,
to
but,
vote on that.
but you know.
And I'm
now-
not accusing our members of doing that,
Yeah.
because our members voted correctly, in my opinion.
Okay, let's back the bus up just for a second. I'm wondering about, I thought we were getting the money.
Well,
No.
you,
Why are we getting the money?
I heard Maureen Springer last night, so did you, say, no, the money's not going back to the towns, the money's going to
Comes to the
Silver
school,
Lake
that's right,
for
the
our
region.
big, whatchamacallit.
Capital improvement.
expenditures.
What she said last night was, your portion is coming to the town. Kingston is forfeiting its portion
Yes,
and giving it to Silver Lake for their capital plan.
yes, but our portion is coming to us.
That's correct.
And then
Okay.
we'll probably end up voting in town meeting their capital plan and going back to
So
them.
your portions are coming to you proportionally, and Kingston's portion is going to the Silver Lake
Capital.
District for their capital plan.
Yes.
And somebody's been eating my porridge and we're around, the 3 little pigs.
How many members do we have?
We have, of the school committee, 3.
Plimpton has 1 total.
Okay, we
Two half
got
votes.
one more subject to talk about at this
Well,
time.
2 half votes.
But again, I
Because it seems that
2 members with a half a vote
Okay.
each.
So let me clarify my position on it. I'm not going to that regional school committee meeting. I will wait for instruction from the regional school committee as to what they want to do with their legislation. If they choose to, if they instruct me to amend it, I'll wait for the language from them and it will be amended.
and that's one of the things that we
You
can,
want to come? It's going to be a great
we
time.
can discuss that on the
But my
13th.
question-
You have to know when to stay out of local affairs.
That's a smart politician.
I'm totally teasing.
See, I have boots on, but they're not
but it's,
that
but
high.
again, for the board, they communicate with you their position on the bill. Who else should they be communicating with?
Senator Brady.
Okay, but that's it.
Well-
It's not before any committee now, it's out of the committee, it's before the House.
Right.
No hearings, nothing's going on right now.
We're in the informal portion of the calendar year. The only thing that can be taken up, and this is important that you hear this, the only thing that can be taken up are non-controversial matters. If House Counsel, it's controversial here,
Yeah.
but from a legal standpoint, if House Counsel ruled
That
that
it's
it's
not.
a gray area, this matter could not proceed without being in formal session.
Okay.
The board may want to communicate to other people besides that.
I gotta spend more time down at the Golden Dome.
We communicate, yeah.
And like I said, there's a dozen transactions that have happened between a school district and a buyer.
Okay, what was your last one?
How many representatives does Kingston have on the Silver Lake Committee, do you know?
I'm not even sure.
How many what?
Are there 3 representatives?
There's 4.
Four,
4?
I think it's 4, 3, and 2.
because we have 2, or 3.
But the
Is it
2 only
weighted?
count as
The
one.
2 in Plimpton only count as one.
Count as one vote.
So effectively, it's a 4-4 split.
It's been a decade since I've been on there. At the time that vote was taken, Kingston was down 1 vote because of the unforeseen death of Joe Shades.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, what was your third
That was a
thing?
beautiful ceremony I went to the other
Wasn't that
night.
something?
It was really awesome. But, okay, so my last thing is Monpont. So I know you're gonna do a forum, but we were talking about the funding, the difference in money that we need for this, treatment for the pond. And I was mentioning it to Charlie that a few weeks ago, I got a call from one of the newly elected councilmen from Brockton who had come to see Charlie.
We did
And
a tour
Kathy.
of Kathy Dryden.
Right,
Tour.
a few months before that, and he had mentioned that, he was going to invite us to one of their city council meetings, and geez, we haven't gotten an invitation.
Don't hold your breath.
I know,
Falsehood,
and because
falsehood.
he said he had heard rumors that we were just kind of after money. We knew that we felt like Brockton had a ton of money. And I was trying to explain to him about
We're
the
not.
history of it. But at some point, when do we stop the madness? We haven't heard from DEP.
I have.
Oh, what's the latest of DEP?
They're in the final stages of this.
Consent agreement?
Yeah, and it's no longer a negotiation, it's an order coming from DEP. The Halifax,
Took a year.
Tim, it's taken 91 years.
No, I know, but since we sat down in DEP for the very first time, it was a year, it was November.
Actually, it was
The
18 months.
gears move slowly.
Not only do they move slowly, a year ago, DEP saw tremendous power coming from Brockton. They don't see that anymore. It's no longer a consent order, it's an administrative order.
Okay.
The data has come back on the sustainability, and it has favored the argument we've been making now for 3 years.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah.
When are they gonna kind of hang out with us for a little bit and give
It's-
us an update?
They recognize that this is DEP recognizes this is no longer sustainable. We talked earlier about the budget. DEP's got 30% of the employees they had 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So things do move very slowly. But just so you know, Jones River was invited to speak to the city council and brief them a month ago.
Yes, I heard about it.
Yeah, and I went with them. And
Okay.
we sat there from 7 at night
And Mr. Dubois.
until our appointment at 10:45. And at 10:45, we went to take the microphone.
And they said we're closing
They
up.
canceled.
City council attorney stood up and said, we are advising the council not to take this testimony
What?
in public because of the legal action pending right now.
What legal action?
And so the council
Sorry.
president asked, am I aware of any legal action? I said no. They asked Pine Dubois and Paul Collis and others, are you aware of any legal action? We're not aware of any legal action. And we were allowed to speak only to funding. We weren't allowed to speak to any of the technical data. So I met with the mayor outside City Hall at 11:15 at night. And there were some very choice words, and I said, as an example, we're in the midst of a drought, and here are your sprinkler systems on at 11 o'clock at night.
I was talking about that.
And so they ran the desal plant for 36 straight days, and now they're out of money, and they're not
Yes.
running the desal plant. As you know, the people around Mont Ponce signed a petition, over 1,000 signatures. I hand-delivered it to Governor Baker and to Secretary Beaton. I told them in very clear terms that if DEP doesn't take a more active role, then we will just assume they're complicit in creating the problem. And the governor and the Secretary of Environmental Affairs have given the Commissioner of DEP very clear marching orders about solving this problem. That's when the dialogue turned from a negotiation
To an order.
So we should get the results of that work in the next couple of weeks. We have given them input from the Mont Ponce Watershed Association. Paul Collis has been extraordinary, to say the least, in terms of the work he's put into this and the quality of the work he's put into this. So we'll get that answer very, very soon. It's my objective, as you know, to file legislation on January 3rd to require that Brockton come off the system altogether and to hook up to the MWRA. We met with the MWRA. They've got plenty of capacity.
Yes.
They want Brockton's business. They've got a hookup in Stoughton that
So it's a
makes
short
the
drive.
project simple. You know, there's a saying in the House of Representatives that if you really love the institution, you need to be prepared to kill it
Yeah.
and start over. The same thing is true with Mont Ponce Pond and Silver Lake. This drought, as difficult as it has been,
It's been a blessing because it's brought to light exactly what's going on down here.
Brockton residents now understand that should that dry up, or because they don't have enough quantity, because West Mont Ponce Pond is closed.
It is, because there's no flow underneath the bridge.
That's right, because of
None.
the cyanobacteria, which is now 7
No,
times.
no, there's no flow.
Because
It's
it's
dry.
But it's closed because that water cannot be mixed in
Right.
to Silver Lake water and then feed Brockton. The Brockton residents now know, because of various mailings and everything else, that they have no backup water supply. So if the water falls below the fill line, or if the cyanobacteria contaminates their water system, it would be 3 to 6 weeks before MWRA can hook up a secondary system, which means that Massasoit, Brockton Hospital, Good Samaritan, all those businesses are closed. They now realize that.
A lot of bottled water.
So I can't go to Brockton without a police detail,
Yeah, I bet.
but they all know that now.
I'll ask
One of the
Gordon.
suggestions I made was earlier,
I better remark.
before you came, was that we approach the commissioners, county commissioners, with the dredging machine to possibly dredge the trench that runs between the two lakes to help. the
No,
flow.
what you want to do is between the dam and the entrance.
The dam and
the
that,
outlets.
well, that's
Right.
the lakes, well, it spoke. But anyway, it used to be funnel, used to be 17 feet deep, used to run right through the middle of the West Lake over into the dam. And that would also increase the flow and the ability to get rid of some of the inside.
I will say this in public on camera. I think that the water commissioners in Brockton, led by Mr. Creed, know exactly what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think they have purposely kept the city council in the dark. When we went there that night, it was 2 members of the Brockton City Council who invited us in to tell the story. And when the chairman shut us off and wouldn't let us speak, there was chaos. They said, "What are you keeping from us?" The city council does not understand the full impact of this. If you looked at the chairman of the water commissioner's response when he attacked me on everything I'm saying, he said, "Listen, it's not a problem. We can just add more chemicals to the water." Think of how outrageous that is.
That is outrageous.
Well, and the
Think
allegation
of how
is
outrageous
that
that
we're
is.
just looking for them to give us money because we
No,
think they have
no.
more money.
No, they think that we just want the money so we can go out, lay on the beach and enjoy the water.
That was their
and
quote.
everything.
That was
their quote.
Representative
Yeah.
Pine.
That was the quote.
That was Representative Michelle Dubois. You didn't read this.
I did.
All right, well, you're leaving out the best part, obviously.
Yeah.
It said, and I quote, "This is about Rep. Coulter trying to take care of the wealthy people around Mont Ponce.
Wealthy people.
Ready? By taking clean water out of the mouths of our African-American Brocktonians."
Oh, really?
Yep, she did.
So I approached her in the chamber, and I asked her if she said that. She admitted she did, in front of 5 other reps. I asked her, how in God's name could you bring water, race into a water issue? And her response, and it's embarrassing to even repeat it, but it was said in front of 5 reps, "That's how I get reelected."
That's how what?
That's how I get reelected.
Oh, you gonna get that? I'll give you the whole quote.
I hope so.
I mean, it is what it is.
Oh, yeah.
You can't make this up.
I started reading that and I was like, are you serious? We just want to go out suntan and enjoy the water and stuff.
You said this is just about you taking,
Rich people.
this is about the rich people around Mont Ponce Pond. A quote from Rep. Dubois. "The rich people around Mont Ponce Pond taking clean drinking water out of the mouths of poor African Americans."
I would be happy to bring her several containers of that clean drinking
No, I
water
wouldn't
for
have
her
even-
personal pleasure.
Tom, I wouldn't have
It'd be
even
even better for
quoted-
me to take it.
I wouldn't have
Better
even
you take it.
risked quoting her, except she said it. This wasn't something she was misquoted on.
Oh, yeah.
This is something she typed online on the Brockton Enterprise. Typed online.
I
You're
have
with me
no
for a
words.
second.
No.
Oh, it was her online entry. So it wasn't that she was misquoted.
Right, right.
I found it disgraceful. I asked her about it in front of 5 other reps, and she responded the way I just told you. So right now, it is very heightened heat.
You think?
It is very hot in the House and in the Senate. It's very hot between Brockton and yours truly. And I gotta tell you, I don't really care, because it has to get to this.
Get you back.
Y'all gotta be with me from now on.
That's right, get you back.
It had to get to this.
You're right, it did, because nothing was gonna move.
So I have this discussion, both my daughter and my son-in-law works for Brockton School System. So I'm up there all the time.
My sister called me, and this is kind of funny. They had a 55th birthday party for my sister Joanna in a beautiful hall in Brockton. And I got an invitation just inviting me. She said, we don't want to have to lock the whole place out.
You know, my conversation with this newly elected councilman, he seemed like he really did care, but he did, you know, say that
He's
the
a little
rumor
naive.
was, no, but he was saying that the rumor was we just wanted the money. But, you know, I went through each point. He said, well, it's about the cranberry growers. So I went through the whole thing, that the different things that we've been doing, and I explained that we've been addressing septic issues. We've been addressing the cranberry. This is the only issue that we haven't been able to get control of, is your management of the water. And so know that we've done whatever we can do in order to mitigate the issue.
Kim, that's worth saying over and over and over again.
Right.
There's no question, Brockton is not the only source of the problem.
Right.
You're right, the fertilizer, septic systems, but in those areas, great improvements been made.
Absolutely.
It's the stagnation
Right.
of Montponson Pond.
We've been able to either talk or through physical means, the highway runoff, the type of things that we're talking about. Septic systems around the lake, people up there having closed tanks. I mean, they've put a lot of money for these flood homes and stuff. So we've worked on that issue. In the 27 years that I've been here, and I started 20 years ago working about the lake, because we want the alewives to return back to the park, open up the lake. And
I don't think we're going to be invited to the city council meeting.
If you are, I won't go, because then they'll shut me down. Trust me.
Oh, but we need.
I'm very close to being persona non grata, and that's okay.
No.
Mr. Brady must
We'll
be
get
taking
you
a lot
in.
of heat. He's in a bad spot.
We'll get you in.
Senator Brady's been outstanding. You know, we all know his electorate is 90%
Oh, yeah.
Brockton. But he,
Has to put him in a terrible position.
but he's been present, he's been involved, he steps up, he's courageous. I can't say enough about Mike.
I think what you said earlier, or rang for me, once the citizens
realize what's really
understand
going on.
what the issue is, they don't want to have that stuff. They're going to want to do something about it. And I agree with you. My impression has always been that the Board of Water Commissioners has just kept it.
Well, we're in the process, Tom, of drafting with the Central Plymouth Water Commission a letter to the water commissioners from Brockton, and we're buying with that $50,000 a full-page ad in the Brockton Enterprise to print it to the citizens of Brockton.
Anyway, I was at one of the meetings when they were talking.
Then definitely stay out of.
The only reason it hasn't been done yet is...
Don't
they
put your
can't
picture in
read the
it.
language.
They're meeting tomorrow night at 7
Yeah,
o'clock.
there's a lot of
The
Hispanic
Central
Haitian.
Plymouth Water
and-
Commission in Plimpton at 7 o'clock.
Oh, that's the Central Plymouth meeting.
Yeah, tomorrow night at 7. So I'll be there.
Appreciate you coming in
My
tonight.
pleasure, Charlie, good to see you.
Been a while.
Thank you so much. This has been really
Thanks for
helpful.
keeping me up past my bedtime.
Thanks for keeping us updated on everything.
Well, wait a minute,
Really.
we're not here? You're not the only one.
Listen, you got paid the big bucks to be.
That's right. Yeah, so we can sit at the beach on Monpont.
Around Montponton.
And I'm still, it shrank so much, I can lay on the beach now and get my tan. It shrank so much.
Good to see you guys.
Take care.
Bye, Tom. Thank you for
Thank you.
coming in.
I want to keep my vest out, because you'll need that another time.
Yeah, but you usually grab it.
Anything else that we need to deal with business-wise?
I think we covered it.
Well, once,
Yeah, because I was going to put that in with my,
on Silver Lake,
Yeah.
besides, I
So I'm
assume
gonna
maybe
put this
that
in my
meeting's gonna
folder.
happen the
Okay, that's fine.
and I'll
13th. My
put this in
concern
my
is
file.
that that's
Gonna be
still
too
a
late.
month away, and if the legislation continues to move along,
Who do we contact?
well, we don't call her. Okay.
We can write Carlton, write Brady.
Well, I
Who
would
else
say-
can we do it?
Well, I'd start off with the House Speaker,
Well, it sounds like what we need is Silver Lake to ask to amend.
which they won't.
If they're
which
meeting
they
on the
won't. But we
13th.
could,
Yeah, we can certainly
we
ask.
can have our reps ask for a motion
Well,
to amend the meeting.
Why don't we do
My
this?
understanding, I'm sorry.
No, that's right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we send a letter to the school committee to let them know we're gonna bring that subject up, so they don't say that we'd like it to happen on the agenda, that we would like to be included in that, so there's no question, and Kim's gonna talk about that, they're gonna say, well, it wasn't on the agenda, so we're not gonna go through
No, I
it.
understand that, but we were invited on the 13th
Right.
anyway, so we're on the agenda for that.
I still would
But
like to
this
put it
is-
in writing.
No, that's fine, but this is kind of the horse of a different color. The way that Tom was describing it is that this is like Fred Dupuy and the state council said this is the way it was supposed to be. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, that's the way it's supposed to be. But the point is, it's only the way that's supposed to be because it's based on what the school committee
Yes.
voted.
Right.
So
So-
my recommendation would be to send a letter to both Speaker DeLeo and to Senate President Rosenberg and say, we understand there's no public hearing or anything, but here's our input. We're an interested party. This is how we feel. We're not necessarily opposed to the sale of land. We just
Right.
feel that all three towns should have a vote at town
So
meeting.
we have a
Yeah.
fair
And I think an
process.
interesting
You could be
point is,
2/3.
it has, he commented that this has happened in the past, but has it happened with a town that represented 50% of the representation? Because I think that's important.
I do think, I don't have a problem with them selling the piece of land.
It's the
Right,
process.
and like I said,
Yeah.
you're specifically saying, we're not taking a position on it. We're just taking a position that the townspeople should have a right to vote on.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
Inclusion is determined every.
It's not a no, it's the process.
And so I don't know what the board wants me to do. I'd like some
Write a letter,
direction from
write
the
some
board.
letters, write a lot of letters.
Yep.
To anyone you can think of,
Well,
Except the city property.
except the city of
Yeah,
Broad.
send one to them
No,
too.
send that one,
Hey,
yeah.
send one anyway. Send one to the mayor.
Just don't send
saying,
anything with my picture.
I thought your
You're a
picture's already
native.
up there.
You're a native. If we checked your ancestor DNA, it would be Brockton.
It would. It probably would. Yes, I drank a lot of
I
Silver
would
Lake
move
water
that
when
at this
I was
point,
in
unless
my
you have
youth.
further business to be taken
No.
care of.
My pot's a pond water.
No, well, yeah, afterwards.
We'll move to
I was still a
adjourn.
little boy when they changed it.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So Charlie can get home before 11.
I know, we thought we were gonna get out early. I'm sorry I asked some
Good night,
so many
everybody.
questions, but